Chapter 236. The Hell Arena was located in the eastern region of the Moon continent, facing the Jade Cloud Lake, resembling an island suspended in the middle of the lake. The number of people entering and exiting the Hell Arena was extremely high. Up ahead, there was an empty space that seemed to be a spectator's stand. In front of Qin Wentian and the rest, a flight of stairs appeared. So many people. Qin Wentian was taken aback. The Hell Arena is one of the most famous places in the Moon continent. Let's go up, Bai Lui stated. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared ahead. The towering stone pillars towered over the surface of the lake, propping up the 3 towering platforms, giving off an intense visual impact to the spectators. You're right, Bai Lui replied. This is the Hell Arena. The one in the middle is reserved for Heavenly Dipper sovereigns to battle against each other. The one on the left is for Yuanfu sovereigns, while the one on the right is for non-standard battles. For example, divine inscriptions and puppets battles, Bai Lui explained. Heavenly Dipper sovereigns actually came here to gamble? Qin Wentian exclaimed in bewilderment. On the way here, Bai Lui had already given him a brief introduction of the Hell Arena. It was the most brutal arena in the Moon continent, as well as the most luxurious gambling platform. Once you stepped onto the Hell Arena, your life or death would be determined by fate. There was no way to concede. And as long as you were still on the arena, your life or death would be determined by your strength. Heavenly Dipper sovereigns only need to participate in the battles, and if they win, the rewards will be increased. You have to know that Heavenly Dipper sovereigns require a huge amount of resources to cultivate, and not all Heavenly Dipper sovereigns have the support of their clans. Many have to depend on themselves, and the Hell Arena provides them with a way to quickly accumulate resources, as well as to temper themselves in combat. Bai Lui explained in a low voice. When they entered, they had already paid the entrance fee of Yuan meteor stones. With so many spectators, even if they didn't participate in the battles, it would still be a hefty sum of money. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. The people in the Hell Arena all wore masks, and each had a unique title. This was to prevent anyone from seeking revenge. Once you went up, no one would know who you were other than the controller of the Hell Arena. Therefore, even if you died in battle, your clan members wouldn't know who killed you. How could you seek revenge? In this way, the participants could do whatever they wanted without any fear. This was the highlight of the Hell Arena. As for finding trouble with the Hell Arena, in the entire Moon continent, there weren't many powers that dared to do so. At this moment, deafening cheers rang out from the spectator stands. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over, only to see a masked man insta-killing his opponent. His cultivation base was at the peak of Yuanfu, and his opponent was also at the same level as him. Azura, 138 consecutive victories, he continues to set a new record. The judge on the other side of the Hell Arena announced Azura's victory. The sound of the cheers was so loud that it seemed as though the entire Hell Arena would collapse. At this moment, the spectators gave Qin Wentian a feeling of fanaticism. This masked man, Azura, was able to achieve 138 consecutive victories. One could very well imagine how powerful he was. That guy was unlucky to have encountered Azura. After this, no one else dared to challenge him. Someone commented. Indeed, no one dared to challenge Azura. That person could only blame his bad luck for not going down the arena after winning a single battle. He was too arrogant, and in the end he met Azura. No one dared to challenge him. Azura walked down the pathway, and no one knew of his identity. Azura took off his mask as he walked down the pathway. His countenance was expressionless. It seemed like the Hell Arena no longer had any effect on him. In the future he wouldn't come here again. As for wealth, it was nothing more than floating clouds to him. If Qin Wentian saw Azura's appearance, he would definitely recognize him. The top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings of Grand Xia, Hua Taishu. Azura, who could he be? Bai Lui murmured. Evidently, she was also filled with curiosity towards this mysterious and powerful Azura. This man was the legend of the Hell Arena, with 138 consecutive victories. Not only that, he had never feared anyone challenging him after his victory. But within the Yuanfu realm, there was no one who could defeat him. He was a true legend. There's someone on the right platform, it's Hades and a newcomer. This Hades is a third-ranked puppet master, and his strength is extremely terrifying. The reason I brought you all here is because I want you all to witness a battle between divine inscriptionists. Bai Lu-yi turned her head and spoke to the crowd. They all came to the right platform, and after finding an empty space, Bai Lu-yi sat together with Qin Wentian, causing the spectators to suspect that there was something fishy going on between the two of them. There's going to be a good show. There's actually someone who dares to challenge Hades. Expressions of interest appeared on the faces of the spectators, and there were even some who ran to the betting booth to place their bets. Although the payout rate for Hades was extremely low, they were still willing to bet on him. Hades laughed sinisterly. After that, a figure appeared in front of him, floating in the air. A human. Qin Wentian's gaze froze. It couldn't be a human, it must have appeared from his interspatial ring. A humanoid puppet. The cultivation methods of this Hades are somewhat evil. He likes to use humans as puppets, Bai Lu-yi stated in a low voice. In front of Hades's opponent, a metallic puppet appeared. Naturally, it was in the form of a human, but it was much larger in size. Hades's opponent's body directly entered the body of the puppet, allowing him to control it as he pleased. Hades. Hades coldly spat out. The humanoid puppet moved like the wind, transforming into a blur as it dashed towards the metallic puppet. Lifting its palms, a terrifying revolving sword slashed out, slashing towards its opponent. However, the metallic puppet lifted its palms, and although its movements were clumsy, it seemed to be filled with strength. The attacks of the two clashed against each other in an instant. Gotcha sounds rang out as the sword slashed on the puppet, causing sparks to fly. Metal puppets were also known as divine weapon puppets, and the cost of creating them was extremely high. Their attacks and defenses were naturally tyrannical, just like killing machines. However, their agility was much lower. Courting death. Hades coldly spat. After which, he stepped out unceasingly, causing runic inscriptions to interweave on the ground, incomparably resplendent. His silhouette flickered as he circled around the metallic puppet, frenziedly inscribing divine inscriptions. At the same time, his astral energy gushed forth, causing the divine inscriptions to erupt forth with terrifying might as he attacked his opponent. The metallic puppet wanted to break free from the entanglement of Hades's puppet, and directly lunged towards Hades. However, Hades merely waved his palms as the divine inscriptions beneath his feet glowed even brighter. Numerous demonic dragons roared as a rain of swords rained down on his opponent. So this is a combat-type divine inscription? Qin Wentian only felt that Hades could do as he pleased, controlling the energy of heaven and earth to fight for him. Roar. A terrifying roar rang out as Yama advanced step by step. It was as though there was a primordial dragon following him. With every step he took, his aura grew stronger. The controller of the divine weapon puppet howled in rage. Terrifying fist shadows transformed into a screen of light that blasted outwards. However, Hades merely waved his palms as a gigantic dragon manifested, slamming into the puppet. At the same time, the human-shaped puppet descended from the sky, abruptly sitting on the neck of the divine weapon puppet. With a sword in his fingertips, he pierced the eyes of the divine weapon puppet. Outcome after that could be imagined. King Hades pulled the other party out from the puppet, and killed him on the spot without holding back at all, taking the puppet for himself. This caused many people to feel a chill run down their spines. This King Hades was truly ruthless in his actions. Does this battle platform not restrict the cultivation base of the participants? Qin Wentian asked Bai Lu-yi. No, this is a special battle platform. If a divine inscriptionist wishes to participate, it's fine as long as it's someone of the same level. Not only that, they can only rely on their divine inscriptions or puppets to fight. If you don't have the confidence, don't participate, Bai Lu-yi replied in a low voice. After which, Qin Wentian saw Bai Lu-yi standing up and walking towards the passageway ahead. That passageway was where the participants were supposed to enter. Bai Lu-yi wanted to participate in the Battle of Divine Inscriptions. Interesting. Qin Wentian laughed. In the following battles, Hades consecutively defeated 2 more participants, and he didn't seem to have any intentions of stopping. he continued to accept challenges. Hades against Flaming Rose. The voice of the judge rang out, causing many to exclaim in surprise. Flaming Rose actually participated in the battle. Not only that, she was challenging Hades. In the Hell Arena, there were many famous people. Hades and Flaming Rose belonged to this category, because they had both achieved glorious battle achievements in the past. Hades, third-ranked Divine Inscriptionist battle record. 68 wins, 5 defeats. Flaming Rose, third-ranked Divine Inscriptionist battle record. 76 wins, 3 defeats. The judge announced the results of the two combatants, pushing the atmosphere to a new peak. Flaming Rose walked up the Hell Arena. She was clad in a red cloak, exuding a valiant and formidable-looking aura. Her fiery red rose mask concealed her long hair and countenance, causing the spectators to want to see her countenance under the mask. It can't be her, right? Qin Wentian frowned. Cold Bailuyi, her name was Flaming Rose? Hee. I really want to see if Flaming Rose is beautiful or not. Hades' hoarse voice rang out, as his puppet dashed towards Flaming Rose. Flaming Rose similarly released her puppet. It was a female puppet, and although it wasn't a humanoid puppet, it was extremely similar. With a wave of her hand, a gigantic shield appeared in front of her. Flaming Rose stomped on the ground, as inscriptions of inscriptions manifested on the platform. Qin Wentian observed seriously. Regardless of Hades or Flaming Rose, the speed at which they inscribed the inscriptions were completed was extremely fast. Not only that, their consistency was also extremely terrifying. Rain of Swords. Qin Wentian only saw the divine inscriptions beneath Flaming Rose's feet, turning into innumerable sharp swords that rained down on Hades. Her puppet only defended and didn't attack, completely delaying Hades's puppet. Great Rock, Ancient Sword, Gigantic Axe, Thunderbolt. Qin Wentian watched as Flaming Rose used her divine inscriptions to attack, and he felt a sense of dizziness in his heart. It was too fascinating. Her attacks were unceasing, as though there would be no end to them. Towards the end, the space between the two of them seemed to have transformed into a tempest of divine inscriptions, as boundless divine inscriptions flooded the entire space. The might of their battle was truly terrifying. Boom. Finally, Flaming Rose's great rock managed to injure Hades. Hades immediately took out another puppet, as he fled the Hell Arena. His speed of escape was extremely fast. To think that a battle of divine inscriptions could be so profound. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. The Grand Xia Empire was truly too fascinating. Chapter 237. After Flaming Rose defeated Hades, she left the arena. Not long after, Bailuyi returned to the spectator stands, only to see Qin Wentian looking at her with a smile that was not a smile. What are you looking at? Bailuyi noticed Qin Wentian staring at her, and a strange expression appeared on her face. Flaming Rose. Qin Wentian whispered in Bailuyi's ears, causing her to glare fiercely at him. How much is the reward for a Yuanfu cultivator? Qin Wentian asked in a low voice. It depends on one's battle record and the specific situation. Normally, those with good battle records would receive a high reward for every victory they win. For those without any battle records, the reward would be extremely low. For example, Azura, the reward for every victory he won was extremely high. Flaming Rose replied to Qin Wentian. What about you? You have such a good battle record. Qin Wentian laughed. Not even 100 yuan meteor stones, Bailuyi replied, as if admitting that she was Flaming Rose. Third heavenly layer? Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. This reward was simply too frightening. Of course, Bailuyi replied with disdain. How profitable. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. I'll go and give it a try. Qin Wentian stood up and walked forward. Leng Ning, who was behind him, involuntarily called out. Where are you going? Qin Wentian turned his head back and smiled. I'm going to the Hell Arena. Are you crazy? If you don't have yuan meteor stones, I can give you some. Are you courting death by going to the Hell Arena? Leng Ning's countenance turned cold as she berated Qin Wentian. Even if you win a few battles by luck, you won't be able to obtain any yuan meteor stones. Only true experts with shocking battle records would be able to earn enough yuan meteor stones. Hearing Leng Ning's words, Qin Wentian laughed. Although this lass's tone wasn't very nice, she was concerned about him. The nervousness in her eyes was real. You knew I couldn't do it. Qin Wentian glared at Lung Ning. Teacher Bailu, can you persuade this fellow? Lung Ning turned her gaze onto Bailu Yi. Why would I persuade him? How could a third-ranked divine inscriptionist die so easily? Even if he was defeated, he should at least have some life-saving methods. Go ahead then. Death will bring peace and quiet. Lung Ning cursed. Qin Wentian smiled but didn't say anything. He walked towards the passageway and entered the Hell Arena. The passageway was like a winding mountain range, with numerous passageways leading to different locations. Are you a newcomer or a veteran? A man beside the passage asked Qin Wentian. Newbie. Follow me. That person led Qin Wentian to a passageway and arrived at a cave abode. There were many masks, cloaks, and other outfits here that could completely conceal one's figure. Take your pick. That person stated. Qin Wentian saw a Kirin mask, and he couldn't help but recall the scene back in the Dreamsky Forest. Smiling, he took off the mask and chose a cloak as well as an ice armor. Cultivation base codename? That person coldly asked. Second level of Yuanfu codename, Kirin. Qin Wentian replied. Okay, newbie, I'll bring you around to familiarize yourself with the rules and environment. That person recorded it down and brought Qin Wentian out of the cavern. He brought Qin Wentian around the Hell Arena a few times until someone matched up with him. Only then did he bring Qin Wentian up to the Hell Arena. Opposite Qin Wentian stood a person with a bronze mask. This person's codename was none other than Bronze. Bronze, second level of Yuanfu battle record. 18 wins, 2 losses. Kirin, second level of Yuanfu battle record. 0. The judge's voice rang out, causing the interest of many to be piqued. Betting on newbies was always the most interesting, because nobody knew how strong they were. I love bullying newbies the most. Bronze's eyes flickered with a cold light as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian didn't reply. To him, the Hell Arena was a treasure trove for him to earn Yuan meteor stones. Today he would just have to grind some battle records first. Only then would he be able to earn more rewards. Before he left Chu, he had brought quite a lot of Yuan meteor stones with him. But if he didn't replenish his Yuan meteor stones, it would definitely affect his future cultivation. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the judge announced the start of the battle. Bronze steps stepped out as clanging sounds rang out from his body. A heavy pressure enveloped Qin Wentian as his fists glowed with a bronze luster, containing a terrifyingly heavy might within. Mandate. Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. He could feel the might of his opponent's mandate. It was extremely heavy and powerful. Even the pupils of Bronze's eyes were shimmering with an azure light. Bronze's battle record, 18 wins, 2 losses, could be said to be extremely glorious. Yet for him, his battle record was 0. Evidently, very few people thought highly of Qin Wentian. It was as though they could already see the scene of Qin Wentian being crushed by a single punch from Bronze. Qin Wentian clenched his fists tightly, causing cracking sounds to ring out as demonic intent permeated the air. He only felt a terrifying amount of energy contained within his fist as the divine energy within his Yuanfu frenziedly flowed into his arms. Qin Wentian's silhouette transformed into a series of after-images as his icy cloak fluttered in the wind. His fist blasted out, directly colliding with the bronze statue. Boom! Both of their fists collided, fist against fist. This was the most direct and most tyrannical collision. Cracking sounds rang out. Bronze felt as though his arm was about to shatter. He groaned in agony as a fearsome might gushed into his arm. His body was flung through the air, slamming into the ground as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. A pressure as heavy as a mountain bore down on him. Bronze inclined his head, only to see Qin Wentian standing right in front of him. Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. I concede. His icy cloak fluttered in the wind. Qin Wentian stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He didn't make a move, he merely nodded his head to Bronze. Many thanks. Bronze stood up and clasped his hands to Qin Wentian. He was completely convinced. Because the identities of those in the Hell Arena were kept secret, many of them were extremely ruthless and merciless. Yet the person in front of him had spared his life. Qilin wins. Do you wish to continue? The judge asked Qin Wentian. MHM. Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head. He was here to gain some battle achievements. This Qilin is indeed strong. He actually defeated bronze so easily. The crowd mused. Following that, Qin Wentian continued to fight, and the spectators heard the same thing. Qilin wins. Qilin wins. Qilin wins 10 consecutive victories. Qilin wins 15 consecutive victories. Voices rang out one after another, as the gazes of many turned to the Hell Arena on the left. Winning a few battles was easy, but winning over 10 battles in a row was extremely difficult. That was because there were many powerful characters among the challengers. Even those seated in the spectator stands couldn't help but step into the Hell Arena to challenge Qin Wentian. Hence, a strange phenomenon occurred in the Hell Arena today. There were actually many newcomers who had 0 battle achievements, yet their combat prowess was extremely powerful. However, the result was still defeat. Qilin had already obtained 30 consecutive victories, 0 defeats. Is it that fellow? Bai Lu-yi stared at the figure of Qilin in the Hell Arena. She couldn't be sure if it was Qin Wentian. After all, there were quite a few newcomers who had 0 battle achievements, and all of them wore masks and cloaks to conceal their features. Anyone could have been Qin Wentian. He shouldn't be this strong, right? Bai Lu-yi mused. After 30 consecutive victories, Qilin finally stopped accepting challenges and walked down the Hell Arena, causing many to feel a sense of regret. Not long after, Qin Wentian returned to the spectator stands, a light smile on his face. 30 consecutive victories. It could be considered a small harvest for him today. How was it? How does it feel to be oppressed? Lung Ning glared at Qin Wentian. Which one are you? Cold Blade? Cold Moon? Or Ancient Pine? The names Lung Ning mentioned were all newcomers who had 0 battle achievements against Qilin. I'm Qilin. Qin Wentian laughed. Although the Hell Arena could keep one's identity a secret, as long as one paid attention to it, there were still some who didn't care about keeping it a secret. For example, if Bai Lu-yi went to the Hell Arena in front of them, these people might have guessed that she was the Flame Rose. But Bai Lu-yi obviously didn't care about keeping it a secret. Lung Ning rolled her eyes, completely speechless at this fellow's ability to boast. You're lucky that Qilin's methods weren't ruthless. If not, would you still be here today? Don't be so rash next time. Lung Ning curled her lips. Qilin, who had 30 consecutive victories, should have already reached a level where he could fight against those at the 3rd level of Yuanfu. Okay, let's return, Bai Lu-yi spoke, as the spectators nodded their heads. It was already late. It was time to head back. On the way back, Bai Lu-yi and Qin Wentian walked in front, causing Lung Ning's lips to twitch. This brat liked to talk big, but he was really good at picking up girls. Are you really Qilin? Bai Lu-yi stealthily asked Qin Wentian, as a hint of curiosity flashed in her eyes. Yes. Qin Wentian knew that Bai Lu-yi had an innocent side to her, and he smiled as he nodded his head. His words caused Bai Lu-yi's eyes to flash with a strange light. What a mysterious fellow. Come to the White Deer Institute tomorrow and study divine inscriptions with me. I'll bring you around the institute today. Right. Qin Wentian nodded his head, and the group returned to the White Deer Institute. Bai Lu-yi halted her steps as she spoke to the crowd. This 1-month period shall end here. If any of you wish to continue on a deeper level, you can apply to the administrator of the White Deer Institute. That's all for now. After speaking, Bai Lu-yi cast a glance at Qin Wentian, and the two of them walked towards the White Deer Institute. Wait a minute. A cold voice abruptly drifted over. Yan Kong's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. Bai Lu-yi hadn't even announced the name of the participant, and she had already left. In the past, everyone had assumed that he would be chosen. This caused him to feel extremely humiliated. Is there anything else? Bai Lu-yi asked, her tone cold. Miss Bai Lu, didn't you say that you wanted to choose someone to study divine inscriptions with you? Yan Kong politely asked. I've already made my choice. There's no need to report it to you. Bai Lu-yi was clearly unhappy. Her meaning was very clear. What else did Yan Kong want? Yan Kong still want to ask, who did Miss Bai Lu choose? Yan Kong's countenance grew even colder, and the crowd could feel that something was wrong with the atmosphere. It seemed like Yin Kong was truly enraged. Scram. Bai Lu Yi's countenance turned even colder when she saw that Yin Kong was still pestering her. Hee, we've been following Miss Bai Lu for a month now. And Miss Bai Lu wanted to choose someone to study divine inscriptions with you. Shouldn't she have chosen the one with the highest attainment in the Tao of divine inscriptions? But now Miss Bai Lu actually chose him? Yin Kong's heart was filled with rage when he saw Bai Lu Yi telling him to scram. Although the White Deer Institute was extremely famous, his Yin clan wasn't weak either. As he thought of this, he coldly laughed. Miss Bai Lu, are you acting like this because you've fallen in love? You. Bai Lu Yi was so angry that her body trembled involuntarily. Let me do it. Qin Wentian nodded his head in response to Bai Lu Yi's anger. His countenance also gradually turned cold. Some people wouldn't give up until they were taught a lesson. Chapter 238. Seeing that Qin Wentian was willing to stand up for her, Bai Lu Yi smiled and nodded her head. This scene caused Yin Kong's countenance to turn even colder. As expected, Bai Lu Yi would never show such a smile to anyone else. Yin Kong's heart was filled with hatred and jealousy. Qin Wentian took a step forward, standing in front of Bai Lu Yi as he asked, "Do you think that your attainment in the Tao of divine inscriptions is the highest among us?" Yin Kong stared at Qin Wentian, his countenance cold as he replied, "Why? Do you want to give it a try? Please enlighten me." Qin Wentian continued walking forward as he stared intently at Yin Kong. At this moment, he no longer had that carefree expression on his face. His eyes shone with a brilliant light, causing people to feel as though they were enveloped by a layer of light. At this moment, the change in Qin Wentian's aura caused Lung Ning's heart to pound. This fellow's aura had suddenly changed. Self-confidence, sharpness, and the frivolity of youth. These were the traits Qin Wentian exuded at this moment. This fellow, even if he's confident, can his attainment in the Tao of divine inscriptions really surpass Yin Kong's? Lung Ning's heart pounded. She didn't know why, but when she saw the change in Qin Wentian, an indescribable sense of anticipation bloomed in her heart. Yin Kong coldly laughed as his aura gushed forth. The surrounding crowd retreated, giving way to Yin Kong and Qin Wentian. The shadow of an astral soul appeared above Yin Kong's head. It was a golden palm imprint, and the palm print astral soul shone with a unique golden luster. This astral soul was a type of forging astral soul. The shadow of an astral soul also appeared above Yin Kong's palm, turning golden in color. Numerous runic lines flowed on the surface of the palm imprint, transforming into a mystical glow. The runic inscriptions on Yin Kong's palm circulated unceasingly, gradually forming the illusory image of a dragon. Although it was a little simple, even a simple dragon-shaped divine inscription could be considered an extraordinary divine inscription. Look carefully. Yin Kong laughed coldly, after which, he slammed his palms into the ground, causing the inscriptions of dragons to appear on the ground. Roar! A low draconic roar rang out as a golden dragon lunged towards Qin Wentian. With a thunderous boom, the golden dragon slammed into Qin Wentian, causing a few lacerations to appear on Qin Wentian's robes. Although Qin Wentian wasn't injured, it still showed how extraordinary this divine imprint was. The standard of a peak-level second-ranked divine inscriptionist is only a step away from the third-ranked. The hearts of the spectators palpitated. It was highly likely that Yin Kong would step into the ranks of a third-ranked divine inscriptionist within half a year. Yin Kong stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at Qin Wentian with a cold smile. He wanted to see how Bai Lu Yi would deal with him after Qin Wentian was defeated by him. "Are you done?" Qin Wentian asked in a low voice, his words causing the smile on Yin Kong's face to stiffen. "It's your turn now." Boom. Qin Wentian stomped his foot on the ground. Instantly, the shadow of a great rock manifested above his head, gushing towards Yin Kong. "And here I was wondering what level you are at." Yin Kong coldly laughed as he stared at the shadow of the great rock. However, before the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian stepped out once more as the shadow of the great rock manifested once more. Boom, boom, boom. Qin Wentian advanced step by step. His footsteps seemed to have a unique rhythm to them. The shadow of the great rock manifested in even more profound and mysterious divine inscriptions, as more and more great rocks rushed towards Yen Kong. Yen Kong waved his arms impatiently, trying to defend himself. Something's wrong, something's wrong. Qin Wentian slowly stepped out, his countenance stiffening as he sensed that something was wrong. The great rock beneath his feet was still in the midst of forming a new divine inscription. Lung Ning's dainty hands were tightly clenched into fists. All of a sudden, she felt her heartbeat quickening as she stared unblinkingly at Qin Wentian. The shadow of the great rock was still in the midst of forming a new divine inscription. Finally, the silhouettes of the great rocks reformed. On the ground, an incomparably gigantic picture of a great rock appeared, blotting out the skies. A terrifying aura gushed forth. Yet Qin Wentian was still as carefree as ever. Abruptly, all the great rocks started to move. They transformed into different parts of the great rock as a terrifying might gushed forth. The great rock soared through the skies, howling in rage as it shot towards Yen Kong. Its incomparably sharp claws were so sharp that it felt as though it wanted to tear Yen Kong's head apart. Yen Kong's countenance drastically changed. He hurriedly retreated as his aura gushed forth in a frenzy. With a howl of rage, both of his palms formed an ancient imprint that blasted out, colliding with the projection of the great rock as a terrifying sound echoed out. The shadow of the great rock gradually dissipated, leaving Yen Kong in a sorry state. Silence filled the air as the gazes of the spectators landed on Qin Wentian. Even Bai Lui was stunned. Qin Wentian's attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions had far exceeded her expectations. This was also the first time she saw Qin Wentian displaying his prowess in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. Could this fellow really be a genius in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions? Third-ranked Divine Inscriptions, able to suppress Yuanfu cultivators. This fellow is a third-ranked Divine Inscriptionist. The crowd stared at Qin Wentian. Only now did they understand that they had misunderstood. How was it that Bai Lui had fallen in love with him? It was clear that Qin Wentian's talent had caused her to look at him in a different light. Thinking of this, many in the crowd couldn't help but feel ashamed. Upon seeing that Qin Wentian was a third-ranked Divine Inscriptionist, the jealousy in their hearts instantly vanished. Third-ranked. Lung Ning's entire body stiffened as she exclaimed in shock. Her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Qin Wentian. At this moment, her countenance was extremely fascinating to behold, as her heart pounded unceasingly in her chest. Third-ranked, this bastard was really a third-ranked Divine Inscriptionist. That fellow who liked to talk big. Something's wrong. Lung Ning's face reddened. He was originally a third-ranked Divine Inscriptionist. Why did he have to talk big? This was clearly the truth. This bastard. Lung Ning stomped her feet in agitation. Her beautiful eyes shone with a brilliant light. She was so agitated that she didn't know what she was thinking. No wonder that fellow was so good at acting, putting on an unfathomable appearance. However, when she thought of the words she had said that she would marry him if he was a third-ranked Divine Inscriptionist, Lung Ning's face flushed red. She snuck a glance at Qin Wentian, feeling somewhat embarrassed. Qin Wentian calmly stared at Yen Kong as he asked, "Your attainment in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions is the highest?" Yen Kong's countenance alternated between shades of green and white. How ironic. Not long ago he was still so confident in his abilities, yet today, he was being humiliated in front of everyone. "You want to kill me?" Yen Kong instantly changed the topic. A terrifying aura gushed forth from him as he dashed towards Qin Wentian, his eyes flashing with a cold light. "Yen Kong, you shameless bastard." Lung Ning, who was still in shock, felt the killing intent radiating from Yen Kong. Her countenance drastically changed. This Yen Kong was simply too shameless. After losing to Qin Wentian in terms of attainment in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions, he actually dared to make a move. Given the strength of his Yen clan, even if he injured Qin Wentian, no one would be able to do anything to him. Golden Dragon Imprint. Yen Kong's palms blasted out, containing a trace of draconic might in them. It was as though a golden dragon was whistling through the air, exuding a terrifying sharpness that could annihilate everything. The mandate that Yen Kong had comprehended was the mandate of metal. Of the 5 elements, metal was extremely tyrannical and sharp. The first level of insight of the mandate of metal was penetrative, causing his attacks to contain an extremely powerful destructive force. Upon seeing Yin Kong suddenly making a move against him, Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light. Demonic qi gushed forth from his palms as the divine inscriptions in his arterial circulation pathway throbbed. Falling mountain palms. Qin Wentian blasted out. Currently, his mastery of the falling mountain palms had already reached the pinnacle of perfection. His attack was akin to a gigantic mountain smashing downwards. Especially since the falling mountain palms were infused with the mandate of force, the might of the falling mountain palms was simply too terrifying. The golden dragon imprint collided with the falling mountain palms. The golden dragon seemed to be on the verge of shattering as a deafening rumble echoed out. After which, the spectators only saw a blurry silhouette appearing, as well as a series of afterimages. Kaboom! A terrifying sound thundered out, and the spectators only saw cracks appearing on a stone pillar not far away. Yin Kong's body had been slammed ruthlessly into the stone pillar, and a hand could be seen protruding from his chest. Qin Wentian stood beside him, his hands clutching onto Yin Kong's chest, exuding a cold and tyrannical aura. The hearts of the spectators pounded unceasingly. Lung Ning drew in a deep breath. Was this still the Qin Wentian who loved to boast? That Qin Wentian who had an indifferent expression on his face, his eyes clean, his features handsome, and a smile always hanging on his face? Qin Wentian abruptly pulled on Yin Kong's arm, flinging him onto the ground. Yin Kong was sprawled on the ground, and just as he was about to lift his head, he saw Qin Wentian's icy gaze staring at him. Apologize to Teacher Bailu. Yin Kong wiped the traces of blood from the corner of his mouth as he stared at Qin Wentian. A ruthless light flickered in his eyes, but he didn't apologize. Instead, he wanted to stand up. Boom! Qin Wentian flipped his palms and blasted out, causing Yin Kong's body to instantly collapse to the ground as he coughed out fresh blood. Apologize! Qin Wentian's voice rang out. A light wind ruffled his robes, and at this moment, a different kind of light radiated from him. Tyrannical, frivolous. Before this, he already knew that Yin Kong had malicious intentions towards him, and had even threatened him before. It was just that this was his first time in the Moon Continent, and he couldn't be bothered to care about such things. After all, he had his own matters to attend to. Yin Kong was just a small matter to him, but there were some people who wanted to cross his bottom line. Since that was the case, he could only suppress them. Do you know what you are doing? Yin Kong roared in a low voice, wanting to get up once more. Boom! As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian's foot directly stomped down on his back, ruthlessly pressing him to the ground once more. If Yin Kong wasn't convinced, then he would torture him until he was convinced. 3 breaths of time. This is your final chance. Qin Wentian's emotionless voice rang out. You dare? Yin Kong howled in rage. Despite being trampled on by Qin Wentian, he was unable to get up. 1 breath. Qin Wentian coldly stated. Yin Kong's countenance contorted with malevolence. He felt extremely humiliated. 2 breaths. Qin Wentian stated once more. A killing intent gushed forth from him, causing the entire space to turn cold, akin to an icy cavern. Yin Kong's entire body trembled as he felt the killing intent seeping into his body. At this moment, he suddenly felt fear. 3. I apologize. Even before Qin Wentian could finish his sentence, Yin Kong already closed his eyes in agony. Today, he had already accepted his fate. Miss Bailu, I Yin Kong, have spoken rudely and deserve to be punished. I'm sorry. Yin Kong was forced to apologize, and he felt even more terrible than death. Since you have to apologize sooner or later, why do you insist on being tortured? Why bother? Qin Wentian shifted his foot away as a faint smile appeared on his face. The coldness radiating from him vanished in an instant, and the smile on his face returned to its former tranquil state. However, the scene earlier was deeply imprinted into the minds of the spectators. They would never be able to forget it. Chapter 239. Yin Kong finally climbed up, coughed a few times, and left without saying a word. He, Yin Kong, had never suffered such humiliation before. He would definitely remember this debt. Lung Ning walked to Qin Wentian's side, her beautiful eyes unblinking as she stared at Qin Wentian. The corners of her lips curled up in a smile, and upon seeing the carefree expression on Qin Wentian's face, she giggled. Lung Ning pays her respects to Grandmaster Divine Inscriptionist. Qin Wentian couldn't help but knock her head lightly upon seeing her mischievous expression. Now you know I didn't lie to you, right? Yes, you didn't lie to me. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have doubted a grandmaster like you. Lung Ning smiled. However, who would have thought that you were so powerful? Can't you show off a little? Don't tell me you want me to angrily inscribe a third-rank divine inscription in front of you and flaunt my prowess. Qin Wentian shrugged. Upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, Lung Ning couldn't help but giggle. Was it possible that Qin Wentian would rush over and inscribe a third-rank divine inscription in front of her to flaunt? Wasn't that a little too arrogant? Even if what you said is right, it's all my fault. Lung Ning glared at Qin Wentian. Yet she was extremely happy in her heart. This arrogant fellow was actually a third-rank divine inscriptionist. Even now, she couldn't help but feel her heart pounding with disbelief. However, as she recalled the ambiguous words she had said to Qin Wentian, she couldn't help but feel embarrassed. All right, you can return first. I still have some matters to attend to. Qin Wentian spoke as he walked over to Bai Lu Yi's side. Bai Lu Yi nodded to Qin Wentian as she replied in a low voice, "Thank you." Earlier, Qin Wentian had beaten up Yin Kong because of her. This happened because of me. It's my duty to make you suffer a bad reputation. Qin Wentian didn't seem to mind it at all. The two of them walked side by side into the White Deer Institute. You have to be more careful in the future. Yin Kong will definitely bear a grudge against you. A hint of worry flashed in Bai Lu Yi's eyes. How could Yin Kong let go of such humiliation? Yes, I will. Qin Wentian nodded his head. This was also the reason why he didn't cripple or kill Yin Kong. If he killed or crippled Yin Kong, the Yin clan would definitely not let this matter rest. However, he only wanted to beat Yin Kong up a little. He didn't believe that Yin Kong would have the face to go back and look for the elders of the Yin clan. If he was beaten up by someone of the same generation, Yin Kong wouldn't be able to lift his head high in the Yin clan in the future. Lung Ning stared at the back of the two of them in a daze. Among the younger generation of the White Deer Institute, Bai Lu Yi was the most outstanding genius, Qin Wentian. She was as aloof as frost, and as gentle as the clouds and wind. She was the genius divine inscriptionist Qin Wentian. The two of them walking together made Lung Ning feel a sense of loneliness. What am I thinking about? Lung Ning shook her head. She couldn't possibly want to marry that arrogant fellow, right? Bai Lu Yi brought Qin Wentian to the White Deer Cavern. This was also the place where he first entered the White Deer Institute. However, they only went to the outermost layer of the cavern walls, as well as the stone tablets for the inscription test. They didn't enter the depths of the cavern. And now, Bai Lu Yi personally led him into the depths of the cavern. Within the first cavern dwelling, there were many stone walls and stone tablets. Densely packed divine inscriptions were inscribed on the stone walls, dazzling the eyes. As for the divine inscriptions on the stone tablets, they were even more intricate and exquisite. Not only that, the divine inscriptions were inscribed by grandmasters. The number of divine inscriptions here is the highest, and many of them were inscribed by the elders of the White Deer Institute. As long as you can comprehend and control these divine inscriptions, you would definitely be able to become a peak-level divine inscriptionist. At the very least, you wouldn't lack divine inscriptions when forging weapons, Bai Lu Yi explained to Qin Wentian. After which, she led Qin Wentian deeper into the cavern. The second cavern was filled with gigantic stone walls, and on the stone walls, there were complete diagrams of divine inscriptions engraved. It was as though two people were battling using divine inscriptions. Every stone wall was like a battle diagram of divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian arrived in front of a stone rampart, as he stared at the divine inscriptions on it. Abruptly, he only felt a surge of destructive energy gushing towards him. Those divine inscriptions seemed as though they wanted to leap out from the stone rampart. How exquisite! Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Let's continue to the front. Bai Lu Yi spoke to Qin Wentian as they walked towards the third cavern dwelling. This cavern dwelling was even larger, and Qin Wentian could sense that the divine inscriptions here were filled with a mysterious aura. Abruptly, Qin Wentian halted his steps. He could sense that the space around him had changed. It was as though he was no longer in the cavern dwelling. Instead, there was a gust of wind in the air, and each gust of wind was as sharp as a blade. The Tao of Divine Inscriptions. Qin Wentian mused. He closed his eyes and used his heart to sense the divine inscriptions. He could see many divine inscriptions that seemed to have a life of their own. They danced unceasingly, transforming into a formation. A hand abruptly appeared, tapping on one of the whirlpools of divine inscriptions. A crisp sound rang out as the wind calmed down. Qin Wentian saw Bai Luyi appearing before him. She smiled at him. "How do you feel? You're so at ease to bring me here?" Qin Wentian laughed. To divine inscriptionists, this white deer cavern was definitely a treasure trove. If we want to develop the Tao of divine inscriptions, just relying on the strength of the White Deer Institute isn't enough. Many of the divine inscriptions here were created by the previous generations of the White Deer Institute. Bai Luyi laughed. "It's not good to be stingy. Not only that, given your talent in the Tao of divine inscriptions, I believe that we can mutually benefit each other. There's still the last cavern dwelling. Follow my footsteps, or we'll be trapped in another formation." Bai Luyi led the way as Qin Wentian stepped into the fourth cavern dwelling. This cavern dwelling was similarly gigantic, and there were many puppets within. There were humanoid puppets, divine weapon puppets, beast-type puppets, all sorts of puppets. "Seems like I'll have to stay in the White Deer Institute in the future. Don't look down on me," Qin Wentian laughed. The divine inscriptions here had opened up a huge door for him. "As long as you're willing, I'll provide food and drinks for you," Bai Luyi laughed. "I'll remember this, don't regret it." Qin Wentian stared at Bai Luyi's pure and innocent countenance, feeling that this cold beauty was getting more and more adorable. What made Bai Luyi surprised was that she didn't expect Qin Wentian's words to be true. From that day onwards, Qin Wentian didn't even take half a step out of the White Deer Cavern. Other than cultivating, all he did was research on the Tao of divine inscriptions. This caused Bai Luyi to be deeply moved. Initially, she had always thought that she was very hardworking, but Qin Wentian was even more hardworking than her, even crazier than her. Once he immersed himself in the Tao of divine inscriptions, it would be hard for him to extricate himself. Sometimes, Bai Luyi would stand behind him for half a day, yet he wouldn't even glance at her. This caused Bai Luyi to feel as though she had suffered a huge blow. She had never received such cold treatment before. In the past, who didn't want to stay by her side? But at the same time, Bai Luyi couldn't help but sigh. No one was born a genius. Even if they were talented, they still had to rely on their own hard work to achieve the title of a true genius. Among the major characters she had heard of before, which one of them didn't have a resolute heart, as well as a strong will to cultivate? Sitting beside Qin Wentian, Bai Luyi stared at Qin Wentian, who was in a trance. It was as though she could see a peerless genius walking on the path of ascension. Qin Wentian's hard work also influenced Bai Luyi. She watched as Qin Wentian improved day by day. Now Qin Wentian could actually fight against her head-on in the Tao of divine inscriptions without being at a disadvantage. This caused Bai Luyi to put in even more effort in her cultivation. "What are you thinking about again? Eat some fruits." In the fourth cavern, Bai Luyi noticed that Qin Wentian was deep in thought. She placed a plate of fruits in front of Qin Wentian. "The Tao of puppets is too mystical." Qin Wentian inclined his head and saw a pure and beautiful countenance. His mood couldn't help but improve as he tossed the fruit into his mouth. "Of course," Bai Luyi smiled as she sat opposite Qin Wentian. "After so many days, have you gained any insights? Do you want to know?" Qin Wentian laughed. Bai Luyi nodded. "Of course. What do you think a puppet is?" Qin Wentian asked. "A puppet is a puppet, what else is there?" Bai Luyi froze. "In my opinion, a puppet is a divine weapon." Qin Wentian laughed. "Puppets can be categorized into humanoid puppets, divine weapon puppets, beast puppets, and so on. Other than some evil cultivators who use real humans to create puppets, the other puppets are all created from the outer shell of a divine weapon. Divine inscriptions are engraved on the outer shell, and the divine weapon is powered by yuan meteor stones. What's the difference between a puppet and a divine weapon? A puppet is just a complicated divine weapon. For a divine weapon with inscriptions, it can convert the astral energy within yuan meteor stones into the power of the puppet, and the power it can unleash is derived from the materials it was created from. Isn't this a unique characteristic of a divine weapon? The higher the grade of the materials used to create a divine weapon, the more powerful the divine inscriptions engraved on it, and the higher the grade of the divine weapon. It's just that a puppet is a humanoid divine weapon, and the amount of power it can unleash is much higher. However, the cost of creating one is also much higher. Qin Wentian smiled. Bai Lui pondered for a moment before nodding her head. I didn't think of it that way, but from what you've said, the disparity is indeed not that great. The Creator is truly marvelous. Have you ever thought that the meridians of the human body have the same characteristics as divine inscriptions? The creation of divine weapons and puppets requires divine inscriptions to be engraved on the meridians, just like the arterial circulation that we cultivate, allowing our innate techniques to be unleashed and unleash tyrannical power. Think about it. Wouldn't the fusion of innate techniques and arterial circulation be similar to the divine inscriptions engraved on divine weapons and puppets? Qin Wentian continued. Not only that, for those of us who have a forging-type astral soul, our greatest advantage is that we can create divine inscriptions within our bodies and unleash them at will. In that case, if every single drop of astral energy is formed from divine inscriptions, would there still be a need for us to create divine inscriptions? Astral energy is divine inscriptions. If that's the case, doesn't that mean that everyone is an innate weaponsmith? Qin Wentian's calm words had a huge impact on Bai Lui. She had only followed the teachings of her elders, and had never thought about it so deeply before. This was also the reason why she hoped to learn divine inscriptions from other outstanding youths. Everyone had their own unique views and insights on cultivation, but her experience was all taught by her elders. Hence, her understanding of divine inscriptions was the same as that of her elders, and there was no way for her to have a clash of ideas. Qin Wentian had given her a huge impact on her thinking. Bai Luyi's eyes shone with a brilliant light as she stared at Qin Wentian. After which she smiled, "Thank you. I hope my insights will be of some help to you." Qin Wentian laughed. This was something he should do. There's a commotion outside, let's go out and take a look. At this moment, Bai Lui stood up and walked out. Qin Wentian followed behind her as they exited the White Deer Cavern. Outside the cavern, an ethereal silhouette appeared. Her face was veiled with a green veil, resembling a celestial maiden. It seemed that she wanted to enter the White Deer Cavern, but was obstructed by someone. What's the matter? Qin Wentian asked in a low voice as he saw saw Qin Wentian, and her melodious voice drifted out. I haven't seen you for a few days, and I was a little worried. I wanted to go in and take a look. Qin Wentian froze when he heard Qin's melodious voice. He felt moved in his heart. So it turned out that this cold lass had never left his side. Since you're fine, I'll take my leave. Qin turned and walked out, disappearing from Qin Wentian's sight as though she had never appeared before. Chapter 240. After Qin left, Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian, as a strange expression appeared on her face. That transcendent young lady earlier had given her a breathtaking feeling. Even though she couldn't see her face, standing in front of her made her feel a sense of loss. Although that young lady's tone was indifferent, it was evident that she cared deeply for Qin Wentian. This fellow was getting more and more mysterious. Little E, who is he? At this moment, the old man guarding the entrance of the White Deer Cavern asked. He knew that Bai Lui had brought Qin Wentian into the White Deer Cavern, but he wouldn't interfere in her matters. But now that someone wanted to barge into the White Deer Cavern because of Qin Wentian, he had no choice but to ask. Uncle Liang, he's my friend, Qin Wentian, Bai Lui replied. Little E, Uncle Liang won't interfere when you make friends, but you have to be careful. You should know that many people in the clan are paying attention to you. You've interacted too much with this person, the old man warned. Currently, Although no one in the White Deer Institute had asked about this matter due to Bai Luyi's status, there were already many who were discussing this matter. Uncle Liang, I know, Bai Luyi helplessly replied. Uncle Liang nodded his head, and no longer asked. He turned and departed. Sorry for the trouble, Qin Wentian said in a low voice as he walked to her side. Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian, as she casually laughed. Why would there be so much trouble? We don't even have anything to do with it. Ah. Qin Wentian froze. His eyes flickered as he stared at Bai Luyi's pure and innocent face. Her fair neck was like that of a swan, and her voluptuous peaks. As the saying goes, the face of an angel, the figure of a devil. What are you looking at? I'm just making an analogy. Bai Luyi stomped her feet, glaring fiercely at Qin Wentian as she turned and entered the White Deer Cavern. Her flirtatious expression caused Qin Wentian to fall into a daze. What a seductive beauty! What are you thinking about? Qin Wentian patted his head speechlessly. After which, he thought of Qingqing as the smile on his face faded away. Drawing in a deep breath, he turned his gaze in the direction of the Pill Emperor Hall. It's been so long. How is she? Bang! In the Pill Emperor Hall, a muffled sound rang out from the cauldron. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes froze as a look of helplessness could be seen on her exquisite countenance. Why was she feeling so uneasy? Junior sister, what's wrong? Bai Fei stared at Mo Qingqing as she asked. Mo Qingqing had a 7 apertures heart, and her success rate in pill concoction was extremely high. I'm going out for a walk. Mo Qingqing walked out of the cauldron, causing Bai Fei to pause for a moment. She then followed Mo Qingqing out of the cauldron, and onto the stone steps outside. The rays of the sun shone down on Mo Qingqing, adding a halo of gentleness to her beauty. Bai Fei stared at the dazzling Mo Qingqing, feeling an indescribable sense of inferiority. Once upon a time, she was also an extremely arrogant person. But ever since her master brought Mo Qingqing here, her self-confidence had been shattered bit by bit. This young lady was born with a halo of light around her, but after this halo was revealed, her entire demeanor changed. Now even Bai Fei didn't dare to look at her directly. Maybe, only that man is the one destined for her, Bai Fei mused. During this period of time, there were many people from the older generations who came to the Pill Emperor Hall, wanting to form a marriage alliance with Mo Qingqing. However, all of them were rejected by Luo He without any trace of politeness. This continued until the rumor that only Hua Taishu was worthy of Mo Qingqing. During this period of time, Hua Taishu had paid a visit to Luo He and met with Mo Qingqing. He didn't say anything, but ever since then, there were many rumors circulating. I wish to go out for a walk. Mo Qingqing's voice interrupted Bai Fei's train of thought. I will report this to master, Bai Fei immediately replied, causing Mo Qingqing to sigh. She wanted to go out for a walk, but couldn't she? After so many days he should have already left Chu, right? Where would he go to roam the world? Thinking of him, a radiant smile appeared on Mo Qingqing's face, as she felt a trace of warmth in her heart. The sunlight shone on her radiant smile, as beautiful as the smile on her face when she called out the name Dumbo in the snow of winter. His silhouette was like a beam of light. No matter how cold her heart was, that beam of light would always be able to melt the ice and snow. Qin Wentian was still immersed in his cultivation of divine inscriptions. Today he was in a dreamscape, contemplating the dreamscape painting. Each and every stroke of the strokes depicted the mountains and rivers, as well as the seasons of spring and autumn. Sometimes Qin Wentian would wonder if the green-robed middle-aged man he met in the dark forest was also a powerful divine inscriptionist. The dreamscape painting depicted the mountains and rivers of the heavens and earth, appearing and disappearing from time to time. Abruptly, Qin Wentian's heart pounded as he stared at the disappearing lines of runic inscriptions. Abruptly, Qin Wentian opened his eyes, only to see Bai Luyi staring at him with a smile on her face. It's rare for you to be able to rest. Bai Luyi, Qin Wentian called out, causing Bai Luyi to freeze as she curiously stared at Qin Wentian. What's wrong? Have you ever thought of reverse inscriptions? Qin Wentian asked. Reverse inscriptions? Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes widened. You know that the divine inscriptions of divine weapons and puppets form a system of their own, and are extremely difficult to decipher. You've also said that when fighting against puppets, they don't know pain, nor do they feel fatigue. Even if you destroy a part of their structure, it's still very difficult to destroy the entirety of the puppet. But if I can sense the structure of the divine inscriptions, I can reverse the inscriptions and reverse them. In that case, regardless of puppets, divine weapons or formations, wouldn't they all be useless? Qin Wentian's eyes shone with a bright light. Bai Luyi's eyes also brightened, but she soon added, but if I want to easily sense the existence of divine inscriptions and reverse them, that's even more difficult compared to forging divine inscriptions. Haha, Bai Luyi, think about how you learned how to inscribe divine inscriptions, Qin Wentian suddenly asked. Naturally, I started from the foundational divine inscriptions, then I copied them and comprehended them step by step, Bai Luyi replied. In that case, can't you use the same method to reverse divine inscriptions? Start from the foundational divine inscriptions, and try to decipher them before you comprehend them? Qin Wentian boldly stated his thoughts, causing Bai Luyi's heart to pound wildly. Her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Qin Wentian as she drew in a deep breath. Qin Wentian was truly a genius. His thoughts were too bold, too crazy. And what made Bai Luyi touched was that no matter what thoughts Qin Wentian had, he would always share them with her, allowing her to widen her understanding of divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian couldn't help but tremble when he saw Bai Luyi staring at him. Am I really that handsome? You're so cocky. Bai Luyi giggled. After which, she retrieved a few books from her interspatial ring, and passed them to Qin Wentian. For you. What are these? Qin Wentian curiously asked. You'll understand after you read them. They're my daily notes. Bai Luyi smiled. I won't disturb you for the next few days. Take a good look at them. I'll be outside, call me if you need anything. After speaking, Bai Luyi left. Qin Wentian flipped through the notes in his hands. It was indeed handwritten. The handwriting was elegant, and it should have been written by Bai Luyi herself. There were 4 books in total, namely the Foundational Manual, the Combat Manual, the Formation Manual and the Puppet Manual. Qin Wentian couldn't extricate himself from reading them. He used a few days' worth of time to finish reading them all in a single breath. After he finished reading, Qin Wentian was very clear that he had been tricked by Bai Luyi. How were these notes? They were obviously secret manuals, extremely profound and profound. Only this wasn't the original copy. It was handwritten by Bai Luyi. Qin Wentian stood up and walked out of the cavern, only to see Bai Luyi in the 3rd cavern. Have you finished reading? Bai Luyi asked upon seeing Qin Wentian walking out. Have you been keeping a lookout for me? Qin Wentian asked in a low voice. In the past, there would be occasional visitors, but these few days, no one had appeared. I don't know what you're talking about, Bai Luyi denied. Qin Wentian rolled his eyes, walking to her side, and returning the secret manual to her. He stared into her eyes, only to see Bai Luyi averting her gaze. Seeing that Qin Wentian wasn't willing to give up, she couldn't help but glare at Qin Wentian. What are you looking at? Qin Wentian fell silent upon seeing the adorable look on Bai Luyi's face, before replying, Thank you. Bai Luyi froze before replying, It's not like I don't have a reward for this. There's an exchange in the eastern region of the Moon continent. You have to help me out. Sure. Qin Wentian didn't ask what the exchange was about, he only nodded his head. Don't agree so early, you can only be the champion. Bai Luyi laughed. With Qin Wentian's help, her chances of success would be even higher. This exchange wasn't only held in the eastern region. It would be held in the other regions of the Moon continent at the same time. At the end, those who succeeded would have the opportunity to follow the transcendent powers of the Moon continent to a mysterious place. That place was a treasure trove for divine inscriptionists, and it was rumored that there were all sorts of powerful ancient divine inscriptions there. 4th level and even 5th level divine inscriptions could be found there. Over there, it was rumored that there were even terrifying puppets of the 4th grade, capable of fighting against heavenly dipper sovereigns. In the eastern region, not only was the White Deer Institute preparing for this, the Yen clan, Lung clan, and other major powers were also preparing for it. If one were to expand the scope, the entire Moon continent, including the Hua clan and the Pill Emperor Hall, were preparing as well. Right, I'll do my best to be the champion. Qin Wentian laughed. Currently, he was more and more confident in his own attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. After a few months of studying, he had grown much stronger compared to the past. I'll go to the Lung clan to take a look. Qin Wentian spoke. Chu Meng, Fan Lu and Little Rascal were all in the Lung clan, as well as Lung Ning. He had no idea how she was doing right now. It was most likely that she had encountered some difficulties. During this period of time, he had been too engrossed in studying the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. I'll send you out. Bai Lui nodded her head, and the two of them walked out of the White Deer Cavern together. Bai Lui personally sent Qin Wentian off. What Bai Lui and Qin Wentian didn't know was that at this moment, in a lofty pavilion, a group of middle-aged figures stood together. One of them bore a striking resemblance to Bai Lui, and was none other than Bai Lui's father. At this moment, he was rubbing his temples, feeling a slight headache. That last little seems to be very close with that young man. They've been together for a few months now, but they've never left each other's side. A person commented, causing Bai Lui's father to have a bitter smile on his face. His daughter had grown up. She would eventually have to find a boyfriend. However, he didn't know the background of this person, and it seemed that he was an outsider. Bai Lui might seem cold, but she was actually pure and kind. It would be best if she didn't fall for someone else. Let her be. It doesn't matter even if she has a boyfriend. If she's not suitable, we can always correct her, Bai Lui's father replied. Such an outstanding daughter. Yet you're so open-minded. I'm even preparing to pull some strings for her, to see if there's a relationship between her and those four from the Moon continent. That person casually replied, causing the pupils of Bai Lui's father to narrow. He naturally knew who those four were. Among the top 36 rankers on the Heavenly Fate rankings, there were 4 from the Moon continent. Not only that, they were all extremely young, and hailed from major powers. Regardless of their background, they were all outstanding, especially the person in the lead. It was said that there was someone who wanted to matchmake him with that beautiful maiden from the Pill Emperor Hall. Chapter 241. In the Lung clan, during this period of time, Lung Ning's life wasn't going smoothly. Ever since Yan Kong was humiliated by Qin Wentian, he intentionally went to his uncle to complain. Of course, he didn't say that he was tortured, but rather he wanted to tell his uncle that the little woman he had chosen, Lung Ning, was actually on very good terms with another man. Hence, Yan Kong's uncle, Yan Tai, sent someone to the Lung clan, telling Lung Ning to obediently go to the Yan clan to look for him. Such an attitude caused Lung Ning, who was originally unwilling, to not dare to go. She knew that as long as she entered the Yan clan, what awaited her would be a nightmare. She didn't know how her uncle would treat her. He might even torture her to death. As a young girl, how would she dare to enter the Yan clan? But to Lung Ning's despair, the people of the Lung clan forced her to go to the Yan clan every day. Even her father came to persuade her to go, and her movements were restricted. This caused Lung Ning to be on the verge of collapse. If the Lung clan continued to force her to go to the Yan clan, she would have no choice but to die. Since she would be tortured to death if she went to the Yan clan, she might as well be straightforward. Some of the servants in the Lung clan felt pity for Lung Ning. Such a beautiful young girl, yet she had to suffer such a cruel fate. This was too cruel to Lung Ning. She should have been able to find a good husband to return to. At this moment, in Lung Ning's courtyard, Lung Ning's father appeared again. Lung Ning, the exchange is about to start. Don't let Yan Tai be completely enraged. Lung Ning's countenance was ice cold as she stared at her father. He exchange? Just because Yan Tai decided to give us a few slots, you want to sacrifice me? Lung Ning, what do you mean by sacrifice? Yan Tai is an extremely powerful third-ranked grandmaster weaponsmith. How many people would want to get close to him? You are going to marry him, and this is such a good opportunity. The clan has already taken care of you. Lung Ning's cousin Lung Lin spoke in a strange tone. If it's so good, why didn't you go ahead and marry him? Why did you push it to me? Lung Ning coldly laughed. Who asked me to find my own husband? Lung Lin leaned against the young man beside her. her head slightly raised as she looked at Lung Ning arrogantly. Lung Ning, you should know how important the refinement grounds are to our clan. Right now, our clan doesn't have any powerful divine inscriptionists. If we want to obtain a placing, we can only rely on Yen Tai's strength. Lung Ning's father continued to persuade. What a joke. Since there's no one powerful enough, so what if they get a spot? In the end, you're still reduced to a supporting role. When has it ever been the overlord forces that have benefited the most from the trial? When has it ever been the Lung family's turn? What's even more laughable is that you're begging others for a few spots to enter. You're really shameless. Lung Ning's heart was filled with despair. Her heart had already turned cold towards this clan. Fatty Fanla was right. She should have left long ago. There was no hope at all. Lung Ning. At this moment, a voice abruptly drifted over, causing Lung Ning's expression to stiffen. After which, she recognized the owner of the voice. When she thought of that arrogant fellow, the coldness in her eyes vanished as a smile appeared on her face. She then sprinted out of the courtyard. What are you doing? The cold father shouted. It's none of your business. How could Lung Ning care? Behind her, little rascal's speed wasn't any slower than hers, as it sprinted towards the exit of the Lung residence. Qin Wentian was extremely depressed. After he arrived at the Lung residence, the guards actually didn't allow him to enter. Although he had stayed here for a period of time, the guards should know that he was Lung Ning's friend, yet they still didn't allow him to enter. This caused Qin Wentian to feel that Lung Ning's situation wasn't too good. A white silhouette leapt into his embrace. Qin Wentian gently stroked little rascal's head as he smiled. Did you miss me? Yai. A voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. Little rascal's head kept burrowing deeper into his chest, causing Qin Wentian to smile. An extremely haggard voice rang out in front of Qin Wentian. Upon seeing Qin Wentian, she tidied up her messy hair as she smiled sweetly at Qin Wentian. I thought you would never be able to come out from the land of gentleness. Haven't you been living a wonderful life recently? It's been all right. Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head, as carefree as ever. This caused Lung Ning to roll her eyes at him, completely convinced. He actually had the cheek to nod his head and admit it? Actually, Qin Wentian was only thinking that he had made great progress in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions during this period of time. How could it not be wonderful? You haven't been living well? Qin Wentian felt some guilt in his heart as he stared at Lung Ning's haggard appearance. He had been so busy studying divine inscriptions that he had completely forgotten about Lung Ning. It's all right, it's just that I'm not used to having you by my side to talk big, Lung Ning joked. Qin Wentian shifted his gaze slightly, glancing behind Lung Ning, only to see her father walking out together with Lung Lin, and that young man from the Lung clan. Their countenances were all extremely unsightly, and this made Qin Wentian understand that Lung Ning was forcing herself to smile. Hee, I didn't think you would still dare to appear. Lung Ning's father coldly laughed upon seeing Qin Wentian. Yen Tai's anger was probably because of the rumors that this young man in front of him had an ambiguous relationship with his daughter. Qin Wentian felt somewhat depressed. Why didn't he dare to appear? Sister, is it because of him that you are unwilling to marry into the Yen clan? Lung Lin walked up with a smile. After offending Yen Tai, you still dare to come out after hiding for so long? After hearing these words, Qin Wentian understood. Yen Tai must be the old demon Lung Ning had told him about back then. As for why he had offended Yen Tai, Yen Kong definitely had something to do with it. Since Yen Kong couldn't find Qin Wentian for revenge, he decided to look for his uncle to deal with Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian didn't look at Lung Lin. This woman was so young, yet she was already so arrogant. Most probably, it had something to do with the environment she grew up in. What do you think? Qin Wentian asked Lung Ning, completely ignoring Lung Lin. This caused Lung Lin to furrow her brows. This man was truly arrogant. Even in front of her house, he still dared to be so arrogant. Lung Ning's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian. Although there was a trace of desire in her heart, the Yen clan was too powerful. Yen Tai was also an extremely difficult character to deal with. Although Qin Wentian was a third-ranked grandmaster, how could he be compared to Yen Tai? She also didn't want to drag Qin Wentian down with her. This had nothing to do with Qin Wentian. He and Bai Lui should be a match made in heaven. Leng Ning mused. After which, she inclined her head and smiled at Qin Wentian. You and Fan Le should move out. My place is too messy. It's not suitable for you to continue living here. Hee sister, you're more sensible. Leng Lin laughed. It seemed like Leng Ning also knew that Yen Tai wasn't someone she could afford to antagonize. She was prepared to sever all ties with him. No matter how unwilling she was, she would still have to marry into the Yen clan. If Leng Ning didn't go, she would be in danger. This last, Qin Wentian couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he saw how Leng Ning was avoiding his gaze. This last that he had met for the first time wasn't only straightforward, but her heart was also very kind. Third-ranked Grandmaster? Qin Wentian murmured in his heart. After which, he stepped forward and held onto Leng Ning's hand, causing her to tremble slightly. Her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Qin Wentian, only to see Qin Wentian flashing a radiant smile as he spoke in a low voice. Things aren't as complicated as you think. After which, Qin Wentian shifted his gaze onto Leng Ning's father. Leng Ning is my girlfriend. If Yen Tai wants her, just tell him to come look for me. After leaving behind this sentence, Qin Wentian couldn't be bothered with his father anymore. Such a father was truly disappointing. Holding on to Leng Ning's hand, Qin Wentian walked towards the Leng clan. Leng Ning's beautiful eyes shone with a radiant light as she stared at Qin Wentian. Her heart pounded madly. This fellow was still so fond of talking big. How good at acting, it was as though he didn't care about anything at all. However, she felt that the arrogant Qin Wentian was actually so adorable. If I can really become his girlfriend, it wouldn't be too bad either. Leng Ning mused in her heart. After which, she felt a burning sensation on her face. It seemed like she had gone crazy to actually have such thoughts. Fatty Fan Le, who had tagged along, couldn't help but wipe away his tears when he saw Leng Ning obediently holding onto Qin Wentian's hand. Wasn't this guy a little too arrogant? Did he think the Leng clan was his home? Leng Ning's father and Leng Lin were dumbfounded by Qin Wentian's words. Wasn't this fellow a little too arrogant? Did he think the Leng clan was his home? If Yen Tai wanted Leng Ning, he could just look for him. Would he be able to bear the responsibility? Oi, are you still not going to let go? After returning to the courtyard, Leng Ning rolled her eyes at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian loosened his grip as he rubbed his nose. You are so direct. Why didn't you ask if I agreed or not? Leng Ning said with disdain. However, there wasn't the slightest hint of anger on her face. Evidently, she was just joking. If Qin Wentian really wanted her to be his girlfriend, Leng Ning would definitely agree. Why don't you reject me? Qin Wentian stared at Leng Ning. Leng Ning was completely speechless when she saw the expression on Qin Wentian's face. Didn't this bastard know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex? He should at least give her some face as a woman. Too much of a bastard, too arrogant. Leng Ning gritted her teeth in hatred. Fine, I'll just take it that I'm taking advantage of you. After this matter is settled, you can just dump me. Qin Wentian knew that Leng Ning was after all a young lady. He couldn't possibly allow Leng Ning to take the initiative and ask him to pretend to be her boyfriend, right? To a young lady like her, this was indeed a little too difficult. That's more like it. Leng Ning smiled in satisfaction. Oh right, Leng Ning, I remember you said that the clan originally chose Leng Lin. If that's the case, then things are simple. Since your clan can change people, then you can also change back. Qin Wentian shrugged his shoulders. Thinking back to Leng Lin's harsh words, he felt somewhat unhappy. If she continued to harass him, then things would get interesting. Leng Ning's beautiful eyes flickered when she heard Qin Wentian's words. She looked at Qin Wentian and laughed. You are too bad. However, this idea seemed to be quite good. Chapter 242. Leng Ning's father and Leng Lin had no intentions of letting Leng Ning off. As long as she didn't return to the Yen clan, Leng Ning's father would have to endure the pressure of the Yen clan. Because of his low cultivation base, Leng Ning's status in the clan was extremely low. This was the reason why the Yen clan dared to marry Leng Ning to Yen Tai. Strength determined one's status. Status determined one's treatment. As for Lung Lin, even if Lung Ning didn't leave, she wouldn't be able to rest easy. After all, before Lung Ning, the Yen clan had already chosen her. A smile that was not a smile involuntarily appeared on Lung Ning's face when she saw Lung Lin and the rest walking over. Although in her mind, Qin Wentian was someone who liked to talk big, she felt a sense of security whenever she was beside him. Maybe it was because of his innate self-confidence that gave her a sense of security. He was always as carefree as the clouds and the wind, as though nothing in the world could affect him. However, if you angered him, he would make you tremble in fear, making you regret it. Just like Yin Kong. What a lovely couple. Lung Lin's strange voice rang out again. She smiled. Lung Ning, you better think this through carefully. When the time comes, not only will you have to bear the wrath of Senior Yen Tai, your little lover will be in a miserable state as well. Does this have anything to do with you? Lung Lin questioned, causing Lung Lin to be stunned. This last seemed to have become unyielding. Of course it has something to do with me. After all, I'm doing this for your happiness. Being able to marry someone like Senior Yen Tai is my good fortune. Lung Lin narrowed her eyes, giving off a crafty feeling. Are you sure that marrying Yen Tai is a good fortune? Qin Wentian stared at Lung Lin as he seriously asked. Lung Lin furrowed her brows. Of course. If that's the case, then I can be at ease. I was still worried that you might feel wronged. But since you said that marrying Yen Tai is a good fortune, we will wholeheartedly give you our blessings. Qin Wentian laughed, causing Lung Lin's eyes to flash with a cold light. I'm not the one getting married. She's the one getting married. I don't have the fortune to enjoy it. I'll leave it to you, sister. After Qin Wentian's reminder, Lung Ning finally understood why Lung Lin had been forcing her to go to the Yen family as soon as possible. It was all for her own peace of mind. The young man beside Lung Lin furrowed his brows as a baleful aura flickered in his eyes. Qin Wentian and Lung Lin's attitude made him extremely unhappy. Wanting his woman to marry him? Was this an insult to him? Do you know the meaning of a loose tongue causes trouble? The young man glanced at Qin Wentian, and the corners of his lips curled up in a cold manner. Qin Wentian glanced at the young man before shifting his gaze away. Since she herself said that marrying Yen Tai is a blessing, let's get the Lung clan to choose a new candidate. I think she is more suitable. Can you all leave now? Lung Lin laughed coldly as she leaned on the arm of the young man. What an arrogant fellow. The cold smile on the young man's face deepened. After which, he held on to Lung Lin's hand as he turned and walked away. Remember your words. I will pass on this message to the Lung clan. Walking to the entrance of the courtyard, the young man continuously stepped out. Abruptly, lines of astral inscriptions appeared on the ground, twisting and turning into the shape of a long spear. Abruptly, the young man turned, and with a single step, a terrifyingly sharp spear pierced through the air, aiming straight for Qin Wentian. The countenance of Lung Lin's father was extremely ugly to behold. A peak-level second-ranked divine inscription could actually be inscribed with such proficiency. With a wave of his hand, Qin Wentian blocked the long spear. A peak-level second-ranked divine inscription only had the might of a peak-level arterial circulation divine inscription. Third-ranked divine inscriptions corresponded to the Yuanfu realm. Do you know the grade of this divine inscription? The young man flicked his sleeves, exuding an incomparably arrogance. Lung Lin stared at Qin Wentian as she laughed. Being able to inscribe a peak-level second-ranked divine inscription at such a young age, his talent was definitely extraordinary. In the future, he would definitely become a third-ranked divine inscriptionist and be worshipped by the clan. After speaking, the young man turned around, intending to leave. However, at this moment, the sounds of footsteps rang out from behind him, causing him to furrow his brows. A sharp whistling sound rang out, breaking through the air and shooting towards him. The young man abruptly spun around and lifted his palms, unleashing an attack. A terrifying great rock whistled through the air, as the sounds of collision rang out. The young man was forced to retreat repeatedly, and with a piercing sound, his robes were torn apart as a bloody wound appeared on his chest. Finally slaying the shadow of the great rock, the young man was in a sorry state. Inclining his head, he stared at Qin Wentian, only to see Qin Wentian calmly standing there. Beneath Qin Wentian's feet, the silhouette of a gigantic great rock appeared. What you inscribed, can it be called divine inscriptions? Qin Wentian mocked as he stared at the sorry figure of the young man. However, at this moment, the countenance of the young man drastically changed as he stared at Qin Wentian in shock. How was this possible? How could he be able to inscribe third-rank divine inscriptions? He was extremely clear of his own attainments in the Tao of divine inscriptions. Not only that, the reason he came to the Lung clan this time around wasn't because of Lung Lin, but rather, it was because he wanted to obtain a slot to enter that place. Lung Lin's countenance abruptly turned pale as she stared numbly at the scene in front of her. Her body trembled involuntarily. It's over. Lung Lin stared at Qin Wentian with a smile that was not a smile in his eyes. Lung Ning, this lass, had found a third-rank divine inscriptionist. How could the Lung clan bear to allow Lung Ning to marry Yen Tai? This was no different from offending a third-rank divine inscriptionist like Qin Wentian. Back then, it was precisely because of the existence of her boyfriend that the Lung clan had considered replacing her. But now, thinking of this, Lung Lin's entire body turned cold. Only now did she realize what the conversation between her and Qin Wentian earlier meant. Scram. Qin Wentian impolitely spat out a single word. The young man's countenance turned pale as he pulled Lung Lin's hand and left. Lung Ning's father stood at the side in a daze, staring at the young man in front of him. Was this his daughter's girlfriend? Ooh. Drawing in a deep breath, a smile appeared on the face of Lung Ning's father. Ning-er, you should know that I, your father, have my own difficulties. My status in the clan isn't high. I have no way to object to whatever the clan wants me to do. Can you leave now? Lung Ning coldly asked her father. Her father's voice faltered for a moment before he nodded to Qin Wentian and left. He status in the clan? Why don't you even dare to argue for it? The pressure the clan is giving you is nothing more than not providing you with any cultivation resources. Can't you just rely on yourself? How laughable. Lung Ning's eyes reddened as Qin Wentian patted her on the shoulder. Slowly shifting her gaze over, Lung Ning contemplated Qin Wentian. Suddenly, a smile appeared on her face, as radiant as the sun. Thank you, it's so good to have you. Lung Ning's heart warmed. This feeling of being protected by someone, she had never felt it before. It's fine, who asked me to have tender, protective feelings for the fairer sex? Qin Wentian shrugged as he laughed, causing Lung Ning to roll her eyes at him. Stop being so smug. Oh yes, since you revealed your talent as a third-rank divine inscriptionist, the clan would definitely want you to represent the Lung clan to participate in the exchange. Lung Ning suddenly recalled something as she spoke to Qin Wentian. Exchange. Qin Wentian mumbled in a low voice. Bai Lui had also mentioned this before, but he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to agree to the Lung clan's request. After all, he had already promised Bai Lui that he would help her obtain first place. The exchange in the eastern region of the Moon continent, is organized by the Transcendent Power, the Star-Seizing Manor. They will gather a group of divine inscriptionists to assist them in entering a secret realm, and the top 3 rankers will have the qualifications to bring a few people along with them. The first ranker will have 10 slots, the second ranker will have 8 slots, and the third ranker will have 6 slots. Not only in the eastern region, but the other regions of the Moon continent will also be hosting an exchange to select participants to enter the secret realm with the transcendent powers. The Lung clan wanted to grab hold of this opportunity, hence they wanted to ask Yen Tai for a few slots. Yen Tai is one of the most popular contenders in the eastern region. Lung Ning explained to Qin Wentian. Combining Bai Luyi's words, Qin Wentian gradually understood the situation. So it turned out that the Lung clan had sacrificed Lung Ning to Yen Tai for the sake of these slots. How cruel. If it was only to give the Lung clan a few slots, there wouldn't be much of a problem. Over the next few days, members of the Lung clan paid a visit to Qin Wentian, causing Lung Ning to deeply understand the fickleness of human nature. Wentian, that last Lung Ning has always been obedient and beautiful since she was young. Now that she has found such a good husband like you, I'm truly at ease. Lung Ning's grandfather spoke in a heavy tone to Qin Wentian, with a smile on his face, as though he was truly a benevolent elder. However, Lung Ning told Qin Wentian that this grandfather of hers rarely saw her. He had many descendants, and among them, there was no lack of outstanding talent. Lung Ning could only stand by the side. When the Lung clan wanted Lung Ning to marry Yen Tai, her grandfather had also agreed. In his eyes, Lung Ning was nothing more than a tool. Qin Wentian feigned civility as he nodded his head. As for the Yen clan, I've already sent people to negotiate with them. You can rest assured. Lung Ning's grandfather had a wide smile on his face. However, at this moment, a person hurriedly walked over, causing old Master Lung to furrow his brows. What's going on? That person glanced at Qin Wentian and Lung Ning, but he didn't say anything. Wentian and Lung Ning are not outsiders. Feel free to speak your mind. Old Master Lung commanded. Yes. That person nodded as he continued. As for the Yen clan, Yen Tai doesn't agree to the exchange. He said that he wants Lung Ning, and as for Qin Wentian, it's best that the Lung clan doesn't get involved with him. If not, we'll meet again at the exchange. Old Master Lung's countenance abruptly changed. That kind gaze of his suddenly turned sharp, flickering with uncertainty. It was unknown what he was thinking. Was Yen Tai crazy? Their Lung clan had already promised him many benefits, yet he actually didn't agree to the exchange? Is there no room for negotiation? Old Master Lung coldly asked. Yen Tai's words were resolute and decisive. Not only that, he told the Lung clan to send Lung Ning over as soon as possible. If not, we'll see what happens next. He even said, he told a certain someone to prepare to die. That person lowered his head, causing Old Master Lung's countenance to turn increasingly unsightly. These words were indeed Yen Tai's style. As for the certain someone, he was naturally referring to Qin Wentian. If that was the case, between Yen Tai and Qin Wentian, one of them would definitely be offended. Qin Wentian, a young third-ranked grandmaster, had a bright future ahead of him. Yen Tai, a mature and powerful third-ranked grandmaster, would definitely surpass Qin Wentian. If they chose Qin Wentian, it would be equivalent to giving up on the exchange. Not only that, they still had to protect Qin Wentian, because Yen Tai wanted Qin Wentian's life. I'll take my leave first. Old Master Lung reluctantly bade farewell to Qin Wentian before he departed. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered. From the change in Old Master Lung's attitude, he was able to deduce some things. Also, that Yen Tai was truly too arrogant. Chapter 243. Lung Ning's relaxed heart tensed up once again. Her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian as she stated. The Lung clan wouldn't care about friendship. They would prioritize benefits over anything else. Yen Tai is forcing them to make a choice. In the end, the Lung clan would still try to curry favor with Yen Tai. Don't worry, everything will pass. Qin Wentian consoled Lung Ning. I'm fine, but now that I've implicated you, I'm afraid Yen Tai won't let you off. Lung Ning spoke with a tinge of guilt in her voice. I did it willingly, how can I blame you? Besides, having such a beautiful girlfriend is truly a joyous thing. Qin Wentian pinched Lung Ning's cheeks, causing her to blush as she glared at him. Lecherous fellow. I'm just exercising my authority as a boyfriend. Qin Wentian could feel the smooth skin of Lung Ning's face, and his heart couldn't help but burn with passion. He hurriedly moved his hands away, but Lung Ning's gaze was filled with hidden bitterness. Yet she allowed him to do as he pleased. He couldn't bear it any longer. The killing power of beauties was simply too great. He didn't want to make things real. I'm going out for a stroll. Qin Wentian turned and left. Lung Ning stared at his back as she whispered. Even if you exercise your authority, you wouldn't dare to. Qin Wentian's face was filled with black lines as he quickened his steps. He still wanted to tease this beauty, but in the end he was the one being teased instead. How depressing. I'm going out as well. Chu Meng followed behind Qin Wentian, and the two of them exited the Lung residence. Qin Wentian stared at Chu Meng as he asked, Big bro Chu Meng, where do you want to go? Although Qin Wentian allowed Chu Meng to follow him, Qin Wentian was still extremely courteous to Chu Meng, even respectful. Chu Meng's prowess in cultivation was something he admired. I'm going to the Hell Arena, Chu Meng replied. I like that place, it's able to allow me to increase my strength faster. Qin Wentian laughed. The Hell Arena was indeed a good place to temper one's combat prowess. The more pressure one was under, the more one's potential would be unleashed. Okay, I'll go with you. Qin Wentian asked, Big Bro Chu Mang, what do you want to do the most after you grow stronger? From Chu to Grand Xia, Chu Mang had been extremely hard-working in his cultivation, never slacking off. In his heart, he definitely had an intense obsession. I want to become stronger and help Big Brother cultivate. I don't want to see Big Brother die. I want him to live forever and never die. Chu Mang's tone was incomparably resolute, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to change. At this moment, an incomparably intense obsession radiated from Chu Mang. His cultivation was for the sake of his elder brother, Chu Wuwei. He wanted Chu Wuwei to live on, never to die. Maybe even Chu Wuwei himself didn't know that he had once told Chu Mang that Chu Mang would live a good life, while he himself would grow old. Chu Mang's heart was deeply moved by his words. At this moment, Qin Wentian halted his steps. He stared ahead, only to see several silhouettes. One of them was none other than Yan Kong. Yan Kong was surrounded by several silhouettes. One of them was extremely skinny and had an extremely ugly appearance. His triangular eyes gave off a sinister vibe. That's the person who dared to touch Uncle's woman. Not only that, we don't even know what happened between them. Yan Kong spoke to the sinister young man beside him, his lips curling up in a cold smile. Yan Kong was humiliated by Qin Wentian, and indeed he didn't have the face to return home to complain. However, he could still make use of the relationship between Qin Wentian and Lung Ning. The humiliation he suffered that day was something he would never forget. He wanted Qin Wentian to die. Master said that after the Lung clan delivers that woman to the Yan clan, Master will gift her to me to play with. After I'm done playing with her, I will refine her into a puppet. A beautiful female puppet. How exciting! The sinister young man's countenance was exceptionally cold, his triangular eyes gleaming with an evil light. Qin Wentian's gaze abruptly turned frosty. What a bunch of bastards. The Yan clan didn't even treat Lung Ning as a human. Gift her to him? And then refine her into a puppet? A cold killing intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian. This sinister young man had to die today. What a pity. Yan Kong couldn't help but imagine the scene of Lung Ning being tortured by this young man. However, he didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy. Who asked Qin Wentian and Lung Ning to offend him? Qin Wentian, have you ever thought that today, I won't kill you, but rather, I will cripple you and capture you alive. I will make you witness with your own eyes how your woman, Lung Ning, will be tortured and refined into a puppet. Yan Kong's countenance was extremely malevolent. He hated Qin Wentian too much. He had never hated someone so much before. Big Bro Chu Mang, other than this young man, kill everyone else. Qin Wentian spoke to Chu Mang. Chu Mang nodded his head, and after which, the aura of a peak 5th level Yuanfu cultivator erupted forth. A terrifying sharpness gushed forth as a resplendent golden bow appeared in his hands. The mandate of the bow and arrow instantly locked onto the crowd in front of him. The power of will. The countenances of Yan Kong, and the rest changed. After which, the people around him all unleashed their auras as they rushed towards Chu Mang, releasing their astral souls as well as their mandates. Swish! A sharp arrow pierced through the air, akin to a bolt of golden lightning, capable of reaping lives. This was the first level of the mandate of arrows, instant strike. The center of the brows of two experts was directly penetrated by the arrow. Fresh blood flowed as they died in a single strike. How fast? How can it be so fast? This is the power of the first level of mandate, the advanced boundary. Yan Kong's countenance paled. If that arrow had been aimed at him, he would have died without a doubt. There was no way for him to evade it. Every level of mandate could be divided into the initial boundary, advanced boundary, transformation boundary, and perfection boundary. The mandate of arrows at the initial boundary would allow the arrow to be as fast as lightning. At the advanced boundary, it would be even faster, akin to a bolt of lightning piercing through space. An expert in the Tao of archery, capable of killing people from 1,000 miles away without leaving a single trace. Get close to him, quickly activate the formation. Yan Kong's countenance changed. He was truly worried that Chu Meng would use an arrow to deal with him. He wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Indeed, those experts all rushed towards Chu Meng as they unleashed a frenzied barrage of attacks. Roar! Chu Meng howled in rage. Abruptly, a gigantic golden axe appeared in his hands as his silhouette expanded in size, radiating a terrifying mandate. Chop! Chu Meng roared. Chop! The first level of the mandate of axe was precisely chop. Not only that, Chu Meng's mandate of axe had also reached the advanced boundary. Voila! One of the experts was forcefully cleaved apart by Chu Meng's gigantic axe as fresh blood splattered through the air. Chu Meng's terrifying aura completely stunned Yan Kong. Wasn't this fellow at the peak of the 5th level of Yuanfu a little too violent? Abruptly, numerous runic inscriptions appeared in this space. Qin Wentian felt himself being transported into another dimension, and his countenance couldn't help but stiffen. Formation. Qin Wentian contemplated the space around him. So it turned out that there had been a formation inscribed here all along. It was just that the divine inscriptions were concealed by the formation's power, which was why he hadn't discovered it. It seemed like he had been too careless. A smile appeared on Yan Kong's face as he stared at the formation in front of him. Good, I really want to see how he will die this time around. Very swiftly, Qin Wentian could see that the sinister young man was already Yan Kong. However, his figure seemed somewhat blurry, as though he was very near, yet at the same time, out of reach. Kneel down and beg me. Maybe I can kill you right here and now. I won't torture you. Yan Kong stared at Qin Wentian. Big bro Chu Meng. Qin Wentian called out. I'm fine, it's just that there's something strange about this space. Chu Meng's voice drifted over. It's fine as long as you can hold on. Qin Wentian spoke. After which he only saw the sinister young man waving his hands, and instantly numerous black bone spears shot towards him. Qin Wentian closed his eyes as his powerful will expanded outwards, trying to capture the flow of the divine inscriptions. Boom! He took a step forward, and mountains seemed to appear around him. The bone spears continued to shoot towards him, causing rumbling sounds to ring out, as expected of a third-ranked divine inscriptionist. The sinister young man's gaze turned even colder. The bone spears rained down like a curtain of rain, growing more and more concentrated as they whistled through the air. The method to break the formation: unravel the formation's core and destroy it. Qin Wentian recalled the secret manual Bai Lu Yi had given him. In the Tao of Divine Inscriptions, there was a method to inscribe formations, as well as a method to break them. However, formations were ever-changing, and it was impossible for anyone to see through the formations of others. In that case, the only way was to capture the core of the formation and destroy it. Over there. Qin Wentian could sense a black-colored runic pattern. As the saying goes, the core of a formation was hard to find, and breaking it was even harder. Even if one found it, it would be extremely difficult to break it. Qin Wentian wasn't in a hurry to act. Instead, he frenziedly defended against the incoming bone spears. Seeing how powerful Yen Tai's disciple was, he couldn't help but frown. Yen Tai's disciple was already so powerful. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant. If he still doesn't kneel, then pierce through his limbs and cripple him. After that, let him personally witness how you humiliate Lung Ning. Yan Kong glared at Qin Wentian as he howled. The humiliation he suffered that day. He wanted to return it to Qin Wentian 100-fold. Qin Wentian acted as though he hadn't heard his words. His eyes abruptly snapped open as a sharp glint of light erupted forth. His finger flicked forward, and in an instant, the entire formation trembled as the bone spears buzzed. Reverse. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Numerous runic inscriptions flickered as the entire formation shattered apart, causing Yan Kong and the sinister-looking young man to stiffen in place. Roar! The formation was broken, and Chu Meng, who was at the side, once again erupted in a frenzy. His gigantic axe slashed out in rage, destroying everything in its path. Blood splattered everywhere, as another expert died. Qin Wentian stepped out, only to see the sinister young man caressing the interspatial ring on his finger. Abruptly, a puppet appeared. Upon seeing this puppet, Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed. Hades. Qin Wentian's countenance changed. This sinister young man was none other than the evil cultivator, who fought against Bai Lu Yi in the Hell Arena. His codename was Hades. Big bro Chu Meng, kill him. Chu Meng nodded his head as the arrow shot out. Instantly, Hades felt as though he had been locked onto by the arrow as his countenance turned pale with fright. Die. Chu Meng roared as 3 arrows shot out at the same time, transforming into streaks of terrifying light. The fleeing Hades' head was directly penetrated by the arrows, and the powerful momentum caused his body to be flung through the air before he slammed heavily onto the ground, dead. Such a scene caused Yan Kong's countenance to turn as white as paper, devoid of all color. Chapter 244. He's dead, he's dead. Yan Kong stared at Hades, who had been nailed to death. Yan Kong's heart trembled as fear involuntarily welled up in his heart. That was Hades, the disciple of his uncle, Yen Tai. He also knew a secret. Hades wasn't only the disciple of his master, he was also the son of his uncle. His uncle Yen Tai was a monster, a pervert, and an extremely selfish person. It was impossible for him to hand over all of his abilities to others, even to his nephew. Back then, Yen Tai toyed with a young woman, and that woman accidentally became pregnant with Yen Tai's son, giving birth to Hades. However, that woman hated Yen Tai to the core, and after giving birth, she committed suicide. After that incident, Yen Tai became even more perverted. He didn't dare to tell Hades that he was his father, but he doted on Hades even more, nurturing him to become a third-ranked divine inscriptionist. This matter was something Yan Kong had heard from his father, telling him not to reveal it no matter what. But now that Hades was dead, he could already imagine how crazy his uncle must have been. Not only that, his life was now in the hands of Qin Wentian. After the death of Hades, the puppet no longer had anyone controlling it. Chu Meng continued his slaughter of the others. Yan Kong stared dumbfoundedly at Qin Wentian walking towards him, as terror seeped into his heart. How do you want to die? Qin Wentian's killing intent gushed forth, enveloping Yan Kong. Yan Kong was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground. You can't kill me. If you kill me, you will be hunted down by the Yan clan. You and your friends will all have to die. Qin Wentian furrowed his brows. This was precisely the reason why he was so depressed. This was the Moon Continent, not Chu, where even Heavenly Dipper sovereigns couldn't do as they pleased. As one of the major clans in the eastern region, the Yan clan would definitely have many Heavenly Dipper sovereigns. If they hunted him down, things would be extremely troublesome. Sadly, he hadn't subdued the White Deer Institute yet. If not, he wouldn't be so restricted. He could just kill Yan Kong directly. However, even if he didn't kill him, he had to make him pay a price and make him remember these 2 lessons. A cold light flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. An ancient halberd appeared in his hands as he stared at Yan Kong, who was sitting on the ground. Abruptly, his ancient halberd exploded forth, piercing towards Yan Kong's lower body. Oh, I don't want this to happen again. Otherwise, you'll have to die even if you don't. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. He kept his ancient halberd as he turned to leave. The battle here had already been witnessed by many people. If he killed Yan Kong, the Yan clan would immediately know about it. If he wanted to kill him, he would have to find a good place to do so. Yan Kong's body was still trembling. His legs were trembling uncontrollably. Glancing at his wet pants, his countenance was as unsightly as it could be. This trembling wasn't only due to fear, but also due to humiliation. Ever since he met Qin Wentian, this was the second time he was humiliated. A person with no background actually dared to humiliate him twice. After Qin Wentian left, abruptly, the puppet which had been in a daze all this while suddenly moved. It slowly walked to the side of Yan Kong and coldly stared at him, causing all the hairs on Yan Kong's body to stand on end as cold sweat dripped down his forehead. Uncle. Yan Kong's voice trembled slightly. At this moment, the puppet could still move. In that case, there was only one possibility. His uncle must have done something to the puppet, allowing it to accompany the King of Hell. In that case, his uncle must have already known everything that happened here. In the eastern region of the Moon continent, in the Yen clan, a withered old man flew through the air with a dark expression on his face. His entire body exuded a sinister aura as he roared in a hoarse voice. "Son, the bastard who killed you, I'll tear out his tendons and dig out his bones. I'll make him suffer a fate worse than death, and refine him into a puppet. Son, I've let you down. I didn't protect you properly." Yen Tai howled madly, his words causing many to raise their heads. Some of the younger ones had looks of bewilderment on their faces, while those of the older generation felt their hearts trembling. It seemed like his son had been killed. This time around, Yen Tai was going to go crazy again. They all knew Yen Tai's personality very well. In the Yen clan, he wouldn't even give face to the elders. He only doted on his son, and taught him everything he knew. But now his son had actually been killed by someone. Nobody knew who the culprit was. Most probably, the culprit would have to face the wrath of Yen Tai. Not long after, Yen Tai appeared beside Yen Kong. Yen Kong had been waiting for him, and the instant he saw Yen Tai, he immediately knelt down and pleaded, "Uncle Konger has let you down. I didn't know things would turn out like this." Yen Kong was truly afraid when he saw the look in Yen Tai's eyes. If this freak were to go crazy, even his father's face would be useless. "Who are they?" Yen Tai asked in a hoarse voice. His tone caused the hearts of those who heard it to shiver. "The person who ordered the assassination of my brother is none other than Qin Wentian, who has a close relationship with the Lung clan's Lung Ning. As for that big fellow, I didn't expect him to be so powerful." Yen Kong replied, his voice trembling with fear. "Where did he go?" Yen Tai icily asked. "I don't know. But even if he can escape, Lung Ning won't be able to." A malevolent light flashed in Yen Kong's eyes. And indeed, after hearing his words, Yen Tai icily stated, "Let's go to the Lung clan." "Right." Yen Kong nodded. As he led Yen Kong to the Lung clan, Qin Wentian, Lung Ning, all of them had to die. Qin Wentian would never have imagined that the evil puppeteer he ordered Chu Meng to kill was actually Yen Tai's son. He also wouldn't have expected Yen Tai to be so crazy. The reason why he didn't kill Yen Kong was because he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to focus on his cultivation. Qin Wentian and Chu Meng arrived at the Hell Arena. During the period when Qin Wentian was studying divine inscriptions with Bai Lui, Chu Meng had already become a frequent visitor of the Hell Arena. Chu Meng's codename was Boorish Man. His muscular physique was extremely fitting for this codename. Not only that, Boorish Man had a terrifying battle record of 63 wins and 1 loss. This caused Qin Wentian to be extremely curious. Who was the one Chu Meng lost to? "Was the person who defeated you very strong?" Qin Wentian asked. "Yes, very strong. He controlled 3 types of mandates, and all of them were at the advanced realm. His astral souls and innate techniques were also extremely powerful. Even now, I still have no way to defeat him." Chu Meng replied in a low voice as he recalled that battle. "That person appeared when I was about to achieve my 50th consecutive victory. Not only that, his battle record was 0. I'm guessing that he might be someone arranged by the Hell Arena." MHM. Qin Wentian's eyes brightened. He didn't expect Chu Meng to have such a conjecture. "Big bro Chu Meng, why do you say so?" Qin Wentian curiously asked. "After I lost to him, he didn't accept any more challenges. Not only that, the spectators were all booing. Many people lost their Yuan meteor stones, and since the Hell Arena is a battle platform, it's also a casino. They would definitely want to earn some money. After seeing my strength, even if they bet a lot, they would only be able to win a small amount of Yuan meteor stones. But even so, there were still many people who were willing to bet on me. If I kept on winning, the Hell Arena would definitely lose." Chu Meng innocently replied. "But this is just my guess. I don't know if it's correct or not." "That's right, a single defeat would allow the Hell Arena to earn back all their losses. How could the Hell Arena allow an invincible existence to exist? The crazier they were before, the more they would be able to turn the tables around, the more they would earn." Qin Wentian mused. After which he turned to Chu Meng and laughed. "Awesome, I think there's an 80 to 90% chance that it's true. This person must have been arranged by the Hell Arena to defeat you. Chu Meng couldn't help but to grin when he saw that Qin Wentian had agreed with his conjecture. The Hell Arena is truly unkind. Big bro Chu Meng, let me help you regain some face today. Qin Wentian laughed. Chu Meng nodded his head. Fine, defeat the person they arranged. MHM. Qin Wentian nodded his head as he entered the passageway beneath the Hell Arena. After a period of time, it was finally his turn. Qin Wentian's appearance in the Hell Arena didn't cause too much of a commotion. Although he had a battle record of 30 consecutive victories, his fame had yet to spread. Even so, there were still many who had expressions of excitement on their faces. This was the first time Qin Wentian appeared in the Hell Arena, yet he had already won 30 consecutive victories. It seemed like there would be a good show to watch. And indeed, very quickly, Qin Wentian's name caused a raging tempest in the Hell Arena. No matter what kind of opponent he faced, he would always be able to suppress them with absolute superiority. In just a short period of time, Qin Wentian's battle record had already reached 40 consecutive victories. The gazes of many in the crowd turned to the Yuanfu battle platform on the left of the Hell Arena, as expressions of excitement appeared on their faces. Many of them knew that the Hell Arena would make a move, and they even bet on Qin Wentian to lose. The payout rate for Qin Wentian to lose was exceedingly terrifying. Because he had already won 40 consecutive victories, the probability of him losing was extremely small. As long as they managed to catch him, they would have already profited. However, even after reaching 50 consecutive victories, Qin Wentian was still winning. What's going on? Could he have been scammed by the Hell Arena? Many in the crowd cursed in their hearts. Although there were many powerful experts who went up, none of them were able to pose a threat to Qin Wentian. In the blink of an eye, Qin Wentian's 50 consecutive victories became 56 consecutive victories. An expert has appeared. Many in the crowd were extremely excited. The payout rate for Qin Wentian to lose was 180. At this moment, a slightly rotund figure appeared in front of Qin Wentian. His battle record was 15 consecutive victories and 6 consecutive defeats. This wasn't considered a good result, and the majority of the spectators bet on Qin Wentian. However, those who were more opportunistic still placed their bets on Qin Wentian. Hee, your winning streak will come to an end. Fatty grinned, his words causing Qin Wentian to be stunned. A person with a 15 consecutive victories and 6 consecutive defeats record actually dared to say such words to him? Either he was an idiot, or he had an overwhelming amount of confidence in himself. A faint smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. It seemed like the Hell Arena had finally made a move. Chapter 245. Qin Wentian stared at his opponent, as a strange light flickered in his eyes. After which he laughed in a low voice. Seems like you're very confident. Confidence comes from strength. That person laughed. It was very rare for him to make a move, and every time he did, the Hell Arena would pay him a hefty price. As for his battle record, it was naturally fake. Let me see how strong you are then. Qin Wentian laughed. All of a sudden, Qin Wentian felt a gust of wind. This gust of wind blew past his ears, as though it was omnipresent, enveloping the entire platform. However, his opponent still stood in his original position, not moving at all. Mandate of Wind. Qin Wentian instantly understood that this was the power of the Mandate of Wind. The first level of the Mandate of Wind, which was also the most basic level, was wind. The power of the wind was omnipresent. The gust of wind grew stronger and stronger, causing Qin Wentian's long robes to flutter violently. Even his eardrums were aching from the powerful gust of wind. Stellar martial cultivators who had comprehended the Mandate of Force were many times more terrifying compared to Wuxia, who had yet to comprehend the Mandate of Force. Just based on pure attack power, Wuxia had comprehended the Mandate of Force, and was only at the initial level of the Mandate of Force, yet his attack power was already doubled. Abruptly, the slightly plump silhouette of his opponent vanished, and Qin Wentian could see his silhouette within the wind. Fast, extremely fast. Qin Wentian's silhouette that had fused with the wind unceasingly changed his position. In just an instant, Qin Wentian only felt a terrifying gust of astral wind gushing towards him. That was actually a series of fist shadows that transformed into a straight line, blasting towards Qin Wentian's face. Even before the fist arrived, the wind generated by the fist had already arrived. Qin Wentian stepped out, executing the Garuda movement technique. His footwork was incomparably profound, as he retreated backwards, evading the incoming fist shadows. At the same time, he struck out with the falling mountain palms, causing a thunderous sound to echo out, as though the peak of the mountain was about to shatter. His opponent's fist shadows seemed to be stacking on top of one another, as though there was no end in sight. Bam! Qin Wentian struck out with his palm again to resist, but he was pushed back by the fist shadow. He faintly felt that there were fist shadows whistling in the wind everywhere. His opponent walked towards him step by step with terrifying power. Is this the fist will? What is the first level? Qin Wentian stared at Qin Wentian as he asked. Someone at the second level of Yuanfu had already comprehended 2 sets of mandates, and their insights were already at the peak of the initial boundary. The first level of the fist intent is stacking strikes. The fist shadows overlap and attack everywhere. The other party's voice was filled with intense confidence. It's already very good to be able to obtain such a long winning streak. Your force will combined with your attack divine art is enough to defeat too many people. But now you are still going to lose. Really? Qin Wentian smiled. Suddenly, the fat man felt drowsy, as if he was about to fall asleep. He had never felt this way before. So sleepy, I feel like sleeping. This was what he was feeling at the moment. And it was very intense. The momentum he had gathered seemed to be dissipating, and he no longer had that indomitable will from before. The first level of the mandate of dream sleep, deep slumber. The power of this mandate could cause one to fall into a deep slumber. If used in combat, the effects would be astonishing. My speed isn't slow either. A voice abruptly rang out in the ears of the fat man, only to see the fat man biting his lips as he howled in rage. His fist shadows transformed into a ferocious tiger that howled in rage as it lunged towards Qin Wentian. However, the incoming Qin Wentian only managed to block with his 5 fingers. At this moment, his body was as straight as a ramrod, akin to a peerlessly sharp sword. Break! The roar of the ferocious tiger echoed out. Yet a terrifying force seemed to be able to penetrate through everything, slamming into the fat man's body. His entire body was flung through the air as he groaned in agony. Glancing at his torn robes, he inclined his head and stared at Qin Wentian as he drew in a deep breath. It seemed like he wasn't able to shake the Kirin. If he wanted to stop the Kirin from continuing his winning streak, he would have to send out even stronger experts. I've lost. Fatty spoke in a low voice as he bowed to Qin Wentian. After which, he walked down the hell arena, exuding an air of elegance. 57 consecutive victories. The eyes of the spectators narrowed. When the two of them fought, they already knew that the fat man was sent out by the hell arena to stop the Kirin. Those who had bet on Qin Wentian's defeat immediately felt hope ignite in their hearts. But now their hopes were dashed. Kirin's winning streak continued. It seemed like no one at the second level of Yuanfu would be able to stop him. Who knew if he would be able to achieve 100 consecutive victories? Kirin victory record 57 victories, 0 defeats. The judge announced, as the spectators erupted into applause. Such a winning streak was already extremely rare. The name Kirin would definitely become a new celebrity in the hell arena. Do you still want to continue? The judge asked Qin Wentian. Let's continue, Qin Wentian faintly replied. He continued to fight, and after achieving 60 consecutive victories, he exited the hell arena. Kirin's battle record was 60 victories, 0 defeats. Not only that, he only used 2 battles to achieve this. It was as though the astral energy in his Yuanfu was endless. Qin Wentian returned to the spectator stand, only to see Chu Meng sneakily flashing him a thumbs up as a smile broke out on his face. Do you want to go? Qin Wentian laughed. MHM. Chu Meng nodded his head as he walked down the hell arena. In the great hall of the Lung clan, a group of people were gathered together. At this moment, Yen Tai had arrived at the Lung clan and was waiting outside, exuding a baleful aura. If it was anyone else, the Lung clan would have ignored them. After all, the Lung clan was a major clan. How could they allow a Yuanfu cultivator like Wuxia to come here and act so brazenly? How should we settle this? One of the people seated at the main seat asked. If we don't handle this matter properly, we can forget about the quota. This time around, our Lung clan will no longer have any ties with us. Yantai will definitely hate our Lung clan to the core, and even if we send someone to participate in the exchange, that person would most likely die in his hands. This person was none other than Lung Lin's father. Not long ago, the Lung clan had once again tried to send Lung Lin to Yantai, causing him to break out in cold sweat. Luckily, Yantai had strongly rejected them, and only wanted Lung Ning. However, the fact that Lung Ning had managed to latch onto a third-ranked weaponsmith made him extremely depressed. What a lucky girl. In your opinion, how should we handle this matter? The person in the lead asked. The one who died was Yentai's disciple, and from the looks of it, Yantai viewed this disciple with great importance. That Qin Wentian is dead for sure, and Yantai will definitely kill him. If we want to appease Yentai's anger, we can negotiate with him. We can hand Lung Ning over to him, and capture that little brat Qin Wentian. I don't think he would reject such a proposal. Wouldn't that be detrimental to the Lung clan's reputation? Lung Ning's father interjected. Lung Ning was, after all, his daughter. Although he was a scoundrel, he still had some feelings for her. The trouble caused by your daughter, and you still dare to interrupt? If it weren't for the fact that your daughter would have given him to Yantai long ago. Lung Ning's father's countenance stiffened, and he could only sigh in his heart. If one didn't have strength, they wouldn't have any status. Who wants to negotiate with Yantai? The person in the lead asked. I'll go. Lung Lin's father replied. Wait a minute, are we really going to give up the face of the Lung clan, as well as a young third-ranked weaponsmith, for the sake of Yantai? Lung Ning's father was still struggling. He killed Yentai's disciple, right? The old man in the lead asked. Yes. Lung Ning's father nodded. At this time, if Yantai wants to take revenge, do you think the Yan clan would participate if our Lung clan interfered? The old man asked. The countenance of Lung Ning's father stiffened. Right now, the Yan clan had to rely on Yantai. If Yantai decided to take revenge, the Lung clan would definitely interfere. He could only nod his head in agreement. Although this third-ranked divine inscriptionist is extraordinary, the price we have to pay to protect him isn't worth it. The old man continued, since this is the case, take care of Lung Ning and make sure she doesn't run around recklessly. Also, be prepared to capture that divine inscriptionist, and give him to Yantai to appease his anger. The Lung clan's decision was to abandon Qin Wentian and protect Yantai. Not only that, they had to help Yantai capture Qin Wentian. Since they had already offended Qin Wentian, they might as well be quick and decisive. They wouldn't give him any chance to recover. Right. Everyone nodded, causing Lung Ning's father to have a look of bewilderment on his face. He was extremely happy that Lung Ning was acquainted with a third-ranked divine inscriptionist. With this, his status in the clan would definitely rise. Not only that, Lung Ning was still his daughter. If there was still hope, he would still wish for her to live a good life. But now that hope had been shattered. After weighing the pros and cons, the Lung clan had decided to abandon Lung Ning and Qin Wentian. This caused him to feel a sense of loss. Lung Ning already felt that something was wrong after Yantai arrived at the Lung clan. Her intuition told her that what would come would come. It seemed like this was her fate, she couldn't avoid it. Even if there was a glimmer of hope, it would still be destroyed. Hence, before the Lung clan made their decision, she had already snuck out of the Lung clan. Outside the Lung clan's residence, Lung Ning and Fan Lu were sprinting with extreme speed. But at this moment, Lung Ning halted her steps. Fan Lu turned and looked at her. Come with me, we're going to find boss. Leave, don't worry about me, Lung Ning stated. No. Fan Li's body trembled. You have to come with me, boss will have a solution. Trust him. Lung Ning's eyes reddened as she frantically shook her head. This is my fate. Tell him, if it wasn't for him, I would have long since gone to the Yan clan and become that devil's woman. It was him who gave me a glimmer of hope. Although the ending can't be changed, I'm still very grateful to him. Tell him not to come back. After speaking, Lung Ning started to retreat. You can't go back. Fan Le shouted. Leave. Lung Ning screamed in agony. After which, she turned and sprinted towards the direction of the Lung clan. This scene caused Fan Li's countenance to turn red. He was in so much pain that even little rascal in his embrace was whimpering. At this moment, Fan Le saw the graceful silhouette in front of him coming to a halt. Lung Ning turned her head and glanced at Fan Le. At this moment, a soul-stirring smile could be seen flickering in Lung Ning's eyes. Tell that arrogant fellow that I like him. After speaking, Lung Ning smiled as she turned and walked towards the Grim Reaper once again. That last smile of hers was so radiant that it would forever be imprinted in Fan Li's heart. Chapter 246. Pain could be seen in Fan Li's eyes as his chubby frame trembled. This feeling of helplessness filled him with hatred. Lung Ning had already prepared herself to die. She didn't want to live at all. She had never once thought of becoming the woman of that devil. Although they had only interacted for a few months, and their feelings couldn't be considered as deep, they had already established a friendship. And now, when Fan Le thought of the possibility that she might die, he couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. It was as though there was a fire burning in his heart. Roar! A low-sounding roar emitted from Fan Li's mouth. After which, he turned and walked to the window of a building not far away. Gazing in the direction of the Lung residence, he saw a group of experts flying through the air. Evidently, they had discovered Lung Ning's escape. Lung Ning. Upon seeing Lung Ning's return, Lung Lin's father coldly snorted. The Lung clan had left this matter to him to handle. Lung Lin was also at the side. She said coldly, "Bitch, don't blame the family for what your man has done. No one can save you now. Lung Ning, you really deserve to die." Another person cursed. Lung Ning stared at the faces in front of her. Her heart was incomparably cold. Was this the so-called clan? Finally, Lung Ning glanced at the emaciated old man on the left. His sinister eyes swept over her body. Without a doubt, this old man was none other than Yen Tai. Lung Ning, the clan has decided to hand you over to Yen Tai for punishment, Lung Lin's father stated. Disgusting. Lung Ning glanced at him as she coldly stated. The Lung clan is so powerful. Yet they actually want to hand me over to an outsider for the sake of doing something for them? How disgusting. I feel shame for being born in such a clan. After speaking, Lung Ning turned and left. A sinister smile flickered in the eyes of Lung Lin's father. With a single step, his silhouette flickered as he lunged towards Lung Ning. However, Lung Ning abruptly turned and stabbed a dagger towards Lung Lin's father. Her heart had already died. What else was there to fear? The eyes of Lung Lin's father narrowed. After which, his palms trembled as a golden light flashed. He directly grabbed the dagger with one hand and slapped out with the other towards Lung Ning. How audacious! However, Lung Ning's hand directly grabbed onto his arm, allowing the palm strike to land on her body. She spat out a mouthful of blood onto his face, but she refused to let go. You're courting death. Lung Lin's father's face was covered in blood as he roared in anger. The hand that was holding onto the dagger suddenly twisted, and a kacha sound rang out. Lung Ning's arm was forcefully broken, but she didn't even let out a groan. Instead, she ruthlessly kicked towards Lung Lin's father's crotch. Scram! Lung Lin's father roared in anger. He swung his arm and flung Lung Ning's body onto the ground, causing a loud explosion. Don't dirty her. I still want to play with this woman. Yen Tai's eyes were filled with baleful intent as he coldly stated. Only then did Lung Lin's father release Lung Lin. Lung Ning crawled up from the ground, her right arm hanging limply by her side. Her cold gaze swept over the faces in front of her, as though she wanted to remember them forever. It's my fault that I, Lung Ning, was born into such a despicable clan. If you want to sacrifice me, I'll accept it. Who asked me to be born into your Lung clan? Lung Ning stared at the members of the Lung clan as she icily continued. But let me tell you this, Qin Wentian is a third-ranked divine inscriptionist, and has already obtained the recognition of the White Deer Institute. He has no relationship with me, and is not my boyfriend like you all think. On the contrary, Bai Lui likes him, and even cultivated divine inscriptions together with him. If you don't believe me, you can go to the White Deer Institute and ask Yan Kong. After which, Lung Ning pointed to Yan Kong, who was standing beside Yan Tai. Yan Kong thought that he would be able to gain Bai Lui's favor, but Bai Lui liked Qin Wentian, and Yan Kong was humiliated. Hence, he took revenge on Qin Wentian, causing a certain someone's death. If you want to settle this debt, you should look for Yan Kong. The members of the Lung clan and Yan Tai all turned their gazes onto Yan Kong, causing Yan Kong's countenance to turn ashen. You're lying. Even if Bai Lui favors Qin Wentian, she only cultivated divine inscriptions together with him. Don't even think of using such a method to protect him. Yan Kong's countenance turned malevolent. Qin Wentian hasn't returned to the Lung clan for several months, spending all his time with Bai Lui. How arrogant is Bai Lui? Do you think that she didn't have feelings for Qin Wentian after spending so much time with him? Yan Kong, stop lying to yourself. I admit that the Lung clan wants to sacrifice me, but if the Lung clan wants to curry favor with Yan Tai and deal with Qin Wentian, you better think carefully. Do you think you can withstand the wrath of the White Deer Institute? Bai Lui coldly laughed, and as expected, the countenances of the members of the Lung clan changed. Seeing Yan Kong's silence, they knew that what she had said was true. Yan Tai wants to deal with Qin Wentian. If you have the ability, go ahead. But if the Lung clan wants to interfere, that would be interesting. Also, I can tell you now that Qin Wentian is a third-ranked divine inscriptionist, and will be participating in the exchange with Bai Lui. Think carefully about his status in the White Deer Institute. Also, if he defeats Yan Tai at that time, I want to see if your Lung clan will regret their actions today. Bai Lui had no way of ascertaining the relationship between Qin Wentian and Qin Wentian, nor did she know that Qin Wentian would be participating in the exchange with Bai Lui. But what she wanted to do now was to threaten the Lung clan, to see if they would dare to make a move against Qin Wentian. As for herself, before she met Qin Wentian, she had already thought that if the Lung clan still wanted to force her, she would die. Hence, to her who was already mentally prepared, death wasn't something to be afraid of. It was just that the appearance of Qin Wentian had given her a ray of hope. The person that Bai Lui is in love with is someone with a bright future ahead of him. Yet, in order to curry favor with Yan Tai, your Lung clan actually gave up on him. Not only that, you even want to deal with him. The Lung clan will definitely regret this decision of yours. I will also curse your Lung clan. The Lung clan will definitely be destroyed in the hands of a bunch of despicable people like you. After speaking, a short sword appeared in Lung Ning's hands. Yan Tai furrowed his brows. Stop her. As the sound of his voice faded, Lung Ning's short sword slashed across her neck, causing fresh blood to spurt out. The members of the Lung clan all had expressions of shock and astonishment on their faces. They leaned forward, but it was already too late. Lung Ning's eyes were still open, as her icy voice rang out. Lung clan, prepare to regret your actions and pay the price for your actions. A clan that has no principles and no humanity will only walk the path of destruction. You. Lung Lin's father trembled as Lung Ning's body slumped to the ground. Her beautiful eyes stared up at the skies, where a white cloud could be seen drifting about, clean and beautiful. Atop that white cloud, Lung Ning could see a handsome silhouette. He always had an enchanting and confident smile on his face, as though nothing in the world mattered to him. What an arrogant fellow! Lung Ning murmured in her heart. Her eyes slowly closed as she left with a smile on her face. Just treat it as a good night's sleep. Once she fell asleep, the nightmare would end. Once she fell asleep, there would no longer be anyone who would force her to marry a devil. Fresh blood dyed Lung Ning's body red. The members of the Lung clan stared at the corpse on the ground, as Lung Ning's curses echoed in their ears. Lung Ning's death had a huge impact on them, especially when they heard her cold and resolute voice. The Lung clan would definitely regret their choice. The Lung clan would definitely be destroyed. This was the curse of the young girl before she withered away. Do you think that death can solve everything? Yan Tai stared at the young girl's corpse, as an evil light flashed in his eyes. Even if you die, I will refine you into a puppet, who will be responsible for the death of my son. So what if he was the man Bailu Yi loved? He still has to die. Yen Tai's venomous voice caused the members of the Lung clan to sober up. Upon hearing his words, their hearts involuntarily trembled. His son? The person who died wasn't Yen Tai's disciple. They finally understood. So it turned out that Yen Tai's disciple was Yen Tai's biological son. No wonder he hated Yen Tai so much. Enough! Lung Ning's father walked over to Lung Ning and squatted down, glaring at Yen Tai in rage. She wasn't the one who killed Lung Ning. She's already dead. Yet you still want to refine her into a puppet? Are you even human? Yen Tai glared at him, as a sinister light flickered in his eyes. Lung Ning's father roared. Impudent! Get back here! Lung Ning's father coldly glanced at him, after which, he carried Lung Ning's body and walked away. When he saw his own daughter dying here, as a father he couldn't help but feel pain in his heart. As a member of the Lung clan he had always been oppressed by his clan, and had done many things to let Lung Ning down. But at this moment, he truly felt pain in his heart. To think that Yen Tai wouldn't even spare his daughter's corpse. Hee. Yen Tai laughed sinisterly as he stepped out, following behind Lung Ning's father. Abruptly, a puppet appeared in front of him, rushing towards Lung Ning's father. Lung Ning's father placed Lung Ning down and walked towards the puppet. At the instant of collision, Lung Ning's father was forced backwards. Yen Tai leisurely walked to Lung Ning's side as he spoke in a low voice. Even in death, don't dream of peace. And that Qin Wentian, as well as that archer, all of you will die miserably, becoming my puppets. Far away, Fan Le watched from the window. The flames in his body blazed madly, and his countenance contorted as the Empyrean flame bloodline erupted forth. Rumble! His aura rose crazily, and he actually broke through at this moment. His eyes were burning with flames, and golden light gradually shone in his eyes. Behind him, a bow appeared, a bow bathed in golden flames. Lung Ning, I will avenge you. Fan Le's voice was hoarse and hoarse. With a deafening boom, the entire room was engulfed in flames. Yen Tai and the rest turned their gazes over, only to see 9 resplendent flaming arrows shooting towards them. Each arrow was as fast as lightning, akin to a beam of terrifying light. Humph! Yen Tai coldly snorted. Seeing the arrows flying towards him, he slammed out with his palms, causing a black-colored palm imprint to appear, imprinting itself onto the arrows. However, at the same time, 3 of the arrows changed direction, emitting a humming sound, as though they were wailing in grief. The arrows shot downwards, directly piercing into Lung Ning's corpse. Abruptly, the terrifying flames engulfed Lung Ning's corpse. Who? Yen Tai roared in rage. After which he saw a fatty bathed in flames riding on a demonic beast, transforming into a streak of golden light as he sped away. Chapter 247. Qin Wentian didn't know what had happened in the Lung clan, but he could feel a sense of irritation welling up in his heart, causing him to feel uneasy. He didn't know why he would feel this way, but it was as though he was infected by someone. Qin Wentian also didn't know why he felt this way. It was because little rascal's emotions had infected him. Qin Wentian didn't have the mood to continue spectating the battles in the Hell Arena. After Chu Meng exited, the two of them departed together. Not only that, their rewards this time around were extremely bountiful. As long as you had the ability, the Hell Arena was indeed a paradise, where you could earn yuan meteor stones at a rapid pace. For stellar martial cultivators to cultivate, other than talent and willpower, they also needed to accumulate resources. Yuan meteor stones were one of the most common resources in the world, and were the currency of the entire continent. Not everyone came from a powerful clan, and the majority of cultivators had to depend on themselves to obtain resources. Where are we going? Chu Meng asked Qin Wentian. This place is closer to the White Deer Institute. Let's take a walk there first. Qin Wentian replied. At the same time, he also wanted to inquire more about the Yen clan. For example, he wanted to know how strong the Yen clan was, what was Yen Kong's status in the Yen clan, and how strong was Yen Tai. These were all things he wanted to know. The guards of the White Deer Institute were extremely polite to Qin Wentian, and allowed him to pass. After all, they had personally seen Bai Lui and Qin Wentian walking together, and it was evident that they had a good relationship. Naturally, they wouldn't block Qin Wentian's path, as that would only cause Bai Lui to be unhappy. Upon seeing Qin Wentian, a faint smile appeared on Bai Lui's frosty countenance. "You're here." Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. "I want to find out some information from you. Not long ago, Yin Kong brought a group of people to kill me, and one of them was the Hades you met in the Hell Arena. He's Yen Tai's disciple, and he's the one who created the human puppet. I asked Big Bro Chu Meng to kill him. What's his relationship with Yen Tai, and how strong is Yen Tai?" Kilyama. Bai Lui lightly furrowed her brows as she continued. "Yen Tai's reputation isn't very good in the outside world. Others refer to him as a demon. He's sinister and ruthless, crafty and perverted, yet he has an extremely high level of attainment in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. His cultivation base isn't very high, only at the 5th level of Yuanfu, but just by relying on the power of the Tao of Divine Inscriptions, he can easily kill opponents at the same level as him. There aren't as many powerful Divine Inscriptionists as there are stellar martial cultivators." In the eastern region of the Moon continent, Yen Tai can be considered one of the top 3rd-ranked Divine Inscriptionists in the Yuanfu realm. His personality is extremely eccentric, yet he treated his disciple extremely well. Even his brothers couldn't order him to do anything, yet he was willing to impart all of his knowledge to his disciple. "Now that you've killed his disciple, I'm afraid Yen Tai will definitely go crazy." Qin Wentian furrowed his brows. It seemed like the Hades he killed was a troublesome character to deal with. As for Yen Tai, he wasn't worried about him taking revenge. After all, Qing was still by his side. "When will the exchange meeting begin?" Qin Wentian asked again. "There's still over 40 days, you have to work hard." Bai Lui smiled. Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head, but at this moment, a series of squeaking noises abruptly rang out in his mind. This caused Qin Wentian's eyes to narrow. Little Rascal had arrived in the vicinity. Inclining his head, Qin Wentian saw the transformed Little Rascal carrying Fan Lu on his back as they soared through the air. Fan Li's eyes were scarlet red, and a terrifying flame could be seen burning within them, filled with a violent intent. "What's wrong?" Qin Wentian had a bad premonition. Bai Lui, who was beside him, waved her hands towards the pursuers who were chasing after Little Rascal. Momentarily, the pursuers all disappeared. Bzzz. Little Rascal transformed back into its original form, and its tiny body leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace, as it continued to squeak in a muffled voice. Qin Wentian gently stroked Little Rascal's snow-white fur as he stared at Fan Lu. "Lung Ning, she's dead." Fan Li's body was still blazing with flames as he spoke to Qin Wentian. Boom. Qin Wentian only felt his mind shuddering violently. Lung Ning had died? No. Qin Wentian shook his head. This was impossible. When he came out from the Lung clan, everything was fine. How could she have died? However, the look in Fan Li's eyes told him that everything was true. Lung Ning had died. Cracking sounds rang out as Qin Wentian clenched his fists tightly. The lines on his face twitched as his gaze gradually changed, turning ice cold. A terrifying chill emanated from him, causing Bai Lui's heart to involuntarily tremble. This young man, who had always been calm and collected, was actually enraged at this moment. It was Yen Tai and the Lung clan who forced her to her death. Fan Lu continued. Yen Tai's disciple died, and he went to the Lung clan to demand for Lung Ning. The Lung clan decided to give Lung Ning to him and capture you. Lung Ning was unwilling to be humiliated, so she committed suicide. Qin Wentian's body was ablaze with flames of rage. His gaze was so cold that it seemed as though it could kill someone. It was extremely cold, as sharp as the edge of a blade. Lung Ning was someone from the Lung clan. Yen Tai's disciple died, and if Yen Tai wanted Lung Ning, he should have looked for me. The Lung clan is a major clan, yet they wanted to give their disciple away? Each and every one of Qin Wentian's words was ice cold. A terrifying demonic qi emanated from him, causing the hearts of those who heard it to tremble. That's right, the Lung clan did this. Not only that, they wanted to give you away as well, to appease Yen Tai's anger. Fan Le stared into Qin Wentian's eyes, both of them burning with the same anger. Lung Ning knew that the Lung clan wouldn't spare her. Hence, she told me to flee, but she herself refused to leave. She knew that she was someone from the Lung clan, and no one would be willing to stand against the Lung clan, and Yantai just to protect her. If she came looking for you, the Lung clan would definitely come looking for you. Lung Ning was afraid that she would implicate you. Fan Le's every word pierced Qin Wentian's heart. Hence, she returned to the Lung clan, and told them that you were the person whom Miss Bailu liked, and that you would be representing the White Deer Institute in the exchange. She wanted the Lung clan to not dare to look for you. And even if she died, the Lung clan would have no reason to look for you. For your sake, she chose to give up her life. For my sake. Qin Wentian's eyes were filled with pain. He had only known Lung Ning for a few months. For the sake of the Lung clan, she chose to give up her life. She said that this was her destiny. Even if you didn't appear, it would still be the same. Hence, she didn't want you to be implicated. She chose to accept the arrangements of fate. And she even said that she liked you. She likes you. Fan Le's words unceasingly pierced Qin Wentian's heart. It was extremely painful, extremely unbearable. A terrifying killing intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian. Where's her corpse? Qin Wentian endured the pain as he asked. Yantai said that he wanted to humiliate Lung Ning's corpse and refine her into a puppet. Hence, I burned her corpse. Fan Le roared in a low voice. I want Yantai dead. I want everyone from the Lung clan to die. I will. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath as he stared into the air. It was as though he could see the smile on Lung Ning's face. She was laughing as she scolded Qin Wentian. Bai Luyi walked to Qin Wentian's side as she stared into his eyes. If you want revenge, you have to remain calm. Qin Wentian stared at Bai Luyi. Her pure and innocent face was filled with a crystalline luster, as though she could see through the hearts of others. From now on, all of you will stay in the White Deer Institute. Regardless of the Lung clan or the Yen clan, they won't dare to cause trouble here, Bai Luyi continued. I want to kill Yantai. Qin Wentian stared at Bai Luyi. Yantai is also enraged now. He will definitely bring many experts with him, and the exchange will be held soon. The Yen clan will definitely not allow Yantai to die. If you want to kill Yantai, you can kill him during the exchange. There's also the Lung clan. The reason why they did such a despicable thing, sacrificing Lung Ning, was to appease Yantai's anger, as well as for the sake of the exchange. By killing Yantai during the exchange, you've already destroyed their hopes. Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes were as clear as ever. She pulled on Qin Wentian's arm as she spoke. Come with me. Qin Wentian didn't move. Bai Luyi turned her head and stared at him. Her eyes so beautiful that they could melt a man's heart. Do you want revenge, or do you want to die because of your impulsiveness? No matter what, the Yen clan and Lung clan are both major transcendent powers in the eastern region. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath as he allowed Bai Luyi to pull him into the depths of the White Deer Institute. Bai Luyi continued pulling his arm, bringing him to the back mountains of the White Deer Institute. Here there was a gentle breeze, green grass, and a lake. Everything was clear and clean, causing one's heart to be at peace. Stay here and calm down. If you want revenge, you can't be impulsive, Bai Luyi said to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian closed his eyes as he drew in a deep breath. Qin Wentian suddenly realized that on the path of his growth, he would meet many people and many things. Some of these people would become his good friends. However, in the martial world where gratitude and grudges were intertwined, he didn't have the ability to make everyone happy. He thought that he could help Lung Ning, but in the end Lung Ning died. Qin Wentian glanced at Fan Le. Today, wouldn't Fan Le be in danger as well? Bai Luyi sat not far away from Qin Wentian. She could understand how Qin Wentian felt. At such an age, one's blood was boiling. How could he not be enraged when his friend was killed for the sake of protecting himself? However, it was useless. Strength was the root of everything. Qin Wentian sat there, the aura radiating from him gradually cooling down. The flames of anger within him had also been extinguished. However, this was only a temporary concealment. It didn't mean that it had completely disappeared. A light breeze brushed past Qin Wentian's face, fluttering his robes. His eyes were still closed as he sat there in the middle of the green grass. And just like that, he sat there for 7 days. In these 7 days, the violent aura radiating from him had long since dissipated. It was as though he had become much calmer. He thought about many things. Opening his eyes, his gaze was clean and limpid, as though it had changed. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the drifting white clouds in the sky. On top of the white clouds, he could see Lung Ning's smiling face. It was as though Lung Ning had seen him at the moment of her death. That innocent and straightforward young girl drifted away with the wind. Yet, it was impossible to erase the memories she had left in the hearts of others. Within Qin Wentian's body, his blood quietly flowed. Numerous blood-colored runes danced about, each of them containing a terrifying tyrannical aura. However, at this moment, they all seemed exceptionally quiet, circulating within Qin Wentian's body. An innate tyrannical aura was contained within, as though it originated from the primordial era, filled with a tyrannical aura. But at this moment, that tyrannical aura was extremely calm, because in the center of the whirlpool, a stream of golden blood flowed about, gradually transforming into a candlelight. This candlelight was extremely weak, yet it was able to calm this bloodline world, causing it to fall into a state of tranquility. This flame was akin to the heart fire. Chapter 248. On the grass patch, Qin Wentian quietly stood there. At this moment, he gradually felt a strange sensation. His perception seemed to be growing stronger. He could sense the flow of his blood, the circulation of every strand of astral energy. He could even hear the chirping of insects and the soft whistling of the wind. Naturally, he could also sense the changes within his body. The violent power of his bloodline had calmed down, revolving around the newly born candle flame, as though it was welcoming its birth, dancing in joy. It was hard to imagine that this incomparably violent power of his bloodline would be so intimate with another power. Not only was it intimate, it was also submissive, welcoming its arrival, like a subject welcoming its king. Around the candle flame, strands of golden light flowed about, causing Qin Wentian to feel bewildered. Were these strands of golden light the power of his bloodline? But what was this newly born candle flame? Why did it cause his perception to grow stronger? Not only that, as the strands of golden light flowed into the candle flame grew brighter and brighter. The violent power of his bloodline was once again roaring, howling, crazily wreaking havoc within Qin Wentian's body, welcoming the arrival of its king. Gradually, Qin Wentian's body glowed with a bright light. The blood in his heart glowed, and so did his 3 yuanfu. Each and every strand of astral energy within his body seemed to grow brighter. The 3 yuanfu pools seemed to be enveloped by a mysterious energy, as the astral energy within them surged and roared. Qin Wentian sat cross-legged as he sensed the changes within his body. He could faintly sense that the newly born candle flame was also a mysterious power of his bloodline. It was awakening, causing his body to undergo a transformation. Little Rascal seemed to have sensed the changes within Qin Wentian's body. Its eyes flashed with a golden light as it slowly walked to Qin Wentian's feet, lying there quietly. Imichem. Bailu Yi and Fan Lu stared at Qin Wentian. They could see that the current Qin Wentian was extremely calm, as though he was enveloped by a mysterious intent. His demeanor seemed to have undergone a transformation, and there seemed to be a faint glow of light radiating from him, giving off a strange feeling. What a mysterious fellow. This fellow always gave her a sense of mystery. His talent in divine inscriptions, his combat prowess, and some of his insights and comprehensions left her in awe. With regards to divine inscriptions, even some of the elders in her clan didn't dare to think about it. For example, reversing the power of divine inscriptions in order to decipher the divine inscriptions was something that even the elders in her clan didn't dare to do. What made Bailu Yi even more speechless was that Qin Wentian's talent was so high, and he was extremely hard-working in his cultivation. Someone like him would definitely be able to rise in the future. Naturally, Qin Wentian didn't know what Bailu Yi was thinking about. At this moment, he was completely immersed in the transformation of his body, cooperating with the baptism of that mysterious energy. Qin Wentian sat there for another 3 days. The cool breeze gently blew by, and a crisp sound rang out, as though a mysterious energy had just broken through to the 3rd level of Yuanfu. Bai Lui stared at Qin Wentian as a brilliant light flickered in her eyes. He broke through. Who would have thought that he would be so agitated that he actually broke through and stepped into the 3rd level of Yuanfu? Qin Wentian's eyes opened once more. He had indeed broken through, stepping into the 3rd level of Yuanfu, with his 3 Yuanfu expanding simultaneously. Not only that, but his body had also undergone a miraculous change. This feeling was indescribable. It was very strange, but he knew that his perception of everything had become stronger. Not only that, there were even some complicated 3rd-rank divine inscriptions that he couldn't comprehend no matter how hard he tried. But now he felt as though he was enlightened. Not only that, there were some complicated 3rd-rank divine inscriptions that had stumped him in the past. But now he felt as though he had been enlightened. Everything had changed. The flame of the candle ignited. The fire of the heart appeared. The heart could see one's true nature. As long as he willed it, he would be able to hear voices from afar, as well as the voices in the depths of his heart. Qin Wentian's gaze shifted to Bai Lui as he smiled in a low voice. Thank you. Why are you thanking me? You were just hot-headed for a moment. Now that you've finally calmed down, there's no need to rush things. A soul-stirring smile appeared on Bai Lui's pure countenance. Sensing the changes in Qin Wentian, her beautiful eyes shone with a brilliant light. This fellow had become even more handsome. There was a unique aura radiating from him that gave Bai Lui an illusion. It was as though there was a ray of light radiating from him. A ray of light that couldn't be seen or touched. Am I good-looking? Qin Wentian asked with a smile, noticing Bai Lui's gaze on him. MHM. Bai Lui lightly nodded her head. Abruptly, as though she had realized something, a blush appeared on her cheeks. The shyness on her face coupled with her pure countenance made her look even more stunning. Bai Lui glared at Qin Wentian, acting like a girl. However, she was also silently cursing herself for losing her composure. How embarrassing it was for her to keep staring at a man. However, Qin Wentian didn't mind. He merely smiled as he stared into the distance. Although his strength had improved, it was still far from enough. In the vast Grand Xia Empire, a cultivator at the 3rd level of Yuanfu could only be considered a low-level character. Only when one stepped into Heavenly Dipper would they have the qualifications to do so. Because he didn't have the support of any major powers, he could only rely on his own strength. In that case, he had to grow stronger. I have to speed up the process of taking control of the White Deer Institute. Qin Wentian mused. Lung Ning's face appeared in his mind once again. It wasn't that he fell in love with Lung Ning, but Lung Ning's death had deeply affected him. Other than the hatred he felt towards the Lung clan and Yen Tai, he also hated himself for being useless. He hated himself for being so arrogant, thinking that he could control everything, only to discover that he couldn't do anything at all. Bai Lui, can you help me with something? Qin Wentian stared at Bai Lui. Speak. Bai Lui nodded lightly. Help me investigate the cause of Lung Ning's death, as well as all the people from the Lung clan who were involved in it. Also, I want to know Yen Kong's movements. I also need a copy of the Yen clan and Lung clan's information, Qin Wentian stated. Right. Although they hadn't known each other for a long period of time, Bai Lui could feel how persistent Qin Wentian was. Once he set his mind on something, he would definitely do it, and he would do it well. For example, when it came to the study of divine inscriptions, he was extremely outstanding. I'll get someone to do it now. Bai Lui stood up. Thank you. A grateful smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Bai Lui didn't owe him anything. On the contrary, it was Bai Lui who had given him many things when he came to the White Deer Institute. She even allowed him to browse through the secret manuals of her clan. He was truly grateful to this pure and beautiful maiden. Aren't we friends? Bai Lui laughed. Of course we are. Qin Wentian nodded. Then why do you still like to thank me? In any case, you've also helped me a lot. Your insights into divine inscriptions have been of great help to me. Bai Lui smiled as she walked towards the direction of the White Deer Institute. Seeing the departing footsteps of the maiden, a radiant smile flickered in Qin Wentian's eyes. Divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian murmured in a low voice. Stretching out his hands, motes of astral light converged on his fingertips. After which, a series of divine inscriptions appeared, as though they were dancing in the air. Gradually, the silhouette of a great rock appeared in the center of Qin Wentian's palm. Qin Wentian waved his hands, and a gust of wind gusted by. The great rock howled in rage as it soared up into the skies. However, Qin Wentian closed his eyes once more. A day later, when Bai Lui returned to the White Deer Institute, she felt her entire body trembling violently. On the grassy plains, Qin Wentian sat cross-legged as a mysterious energy enveloped his body. Within his body, there seemed to be a bloodline limit that seemed to originate from the primordial era. It was as though she could see a lofty silhouette staring at her with a terrifying gaze, causing her to feel a sense of inferiority. Around Qin Wentian's body, a series of gigantic divine inscriptions appeared. Or more accurately, they couldn't even be called divine inscriptions anymore, because they had already transformed into a gigantic entity. A gigantic black rock floated behind Qin Wentian, exuding a terrifying aura. That pair of sharp and cold eyes of the rock seemed as though it was a real existence. Is this really a demonic beast formed from the condensation of divine inscriptions? Bai Luyi's heart pounded. She didn't dare to believe her own eyes. Fan Lu and Chu Mang, who were beside her, were also stunned. The feeling the great rock gave them was extremely terrifying. Even Chu Mang felt threatened by it. The terrifying shadow of the great rock gradually dissipated, as though it had returned to the divine inscriptions on the ground. Qin Wentian laughed when he saw the look of shock on Bai Luyi's face. I've had a breakthrough these past few days, and my perception of divine inscriptions has grown even stronger. I can now easily inscribe third-rank divine inscriptions. What Qin Wentian didn't say was that not only had his perception of divine inscriptions grown stronger, his perception of everything around him had also grown stronger. Is this a peak-tier third-rank divine inscription? Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian as she asked. Although I can inscribe it, I need some time to do so. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to do so during a battle. We still need to cultivate for a period of time. Qin Wentian didn't deny it. Being able to inscribe such a divine inscription, it's as though it's real. Our chances of winning the exchange this time around will be much higher. Bai Lui smiled as she walked over and handed over some scrolls to Qin Wentian. These were the information they had gathered from their investigations. Qin Wentian received the dossier as he flipped through it. There were many names inscribed on it. All of them were related to Lung Ning's death. Lung Jian, Lung Ning's uncle, as well as Lung Lin's father. His cultivation base was at the 7th level of Yuanfu, and he had always advocated sacrificing Lung Ning. Lung Mao, one of the elders of the Lung clan, with a cultivation base at the 9th level of Yuanfu. He had the authority to decide on Lung Ning's death, and he was one of the main culprits. Lung Lin, one of the young misses of the Lung clan, with a cultivation base at the 2nd level of Yuanfu. She was the first person chosen by the Lung clan to be sacrificed. And it was precisely because of her and her father's interference that Lung Ning eventually replaced her as one of the main culprits. Names after names were all related to Lung Ning's death. Now in the hands of Qin Wentian, it was like a list of the dead. Chapter 249. White Deer Institute. On the grassy plains behind the mountain, resplendent astral arrows whistled through the air as they madly shot forth. Chu Meng's body was filled with a tyrannical strength as he drew the bow in his hands. The contours of his arms exuded a sense of unyielding beauty. In front of Chu Meng, a silhouette transformed into a series of afterimages, rapidly evading the incoming arrows. Quick, big bro Chu Meng, use the power of your mandate of arrows. Qin Wentian shouted to Chu Meng with ease. Okay, be careful. Chu Meng nodded. With a loud shout, the power of his mandate gushed forth, causing the humming sound of the arrows to intensify. An even more terrifying beam of light flashed as an arrow instantly shot forth. Qin Wentian stared fixedly ahead, only to feel a beam of light shooting towards him. Fast, the speed of the arrow was simply too terrifying. During a battle, the slightest bit of distraction would result in death. Hence, in a group battle, if one side had an extremely powerful archer, it would be extremely terrifying. He had to kill that archer first. Qin Wentian stared fixedly at the beam of light in front of him. He felt as though the space around him had stopped moving. Even the flow of the wind could be seen clearly. Even his heart was pounding, as though he could grasp the trajectory of everything. Bzzz. The terrifying arrow whistled through the air, brushing past the side of Qin Wentian's ears. The terrifying tearing sound caused Qin Wentian's eardrums to ache, yet his eyes were filled with excitement. Big bro Chu Mang, it's not enough, release more arrows at once. Chu Mang also had an expression of excitement on his face. 3 arrows shot through the air at the same time, the terrifying beam of light causing Bai Lui and Fan Li's hearts to tremble. With such terrifying speed, they felt that the arrows would instantly land on Qin Wentian's head, yet they only saw Qin Wentian evading at the last moment. That level of danger caused their hearts to palpitate uncontrollably. This kind of training was too crazy. Not only that, Qin Wentian and Chu Mang didn't seem to have any intentions of stopping. Terrifying arrows rained down like a torrential rain. Qin Wentian unleashed his full potential. Gotcha. Abruptly, Bai Lui and Fan Li saw the ancient halberd in Qin Wentian's hands shattering the incoming arrows. At the same time, he dashed towards Chu Mang. This madman. Chu Mang and Qin Wentian spat in a low voice. Chu Mang and Qin Wentian had been training madly, day after day, as though they would never know exhaustion. Although Qin Wentian was completely suppressed, both Bai Lui and Fan Li couldn't help but feel astonished. Now, when Qin Wentian slashed out with his halberd, the power behind it was many times stronger than before. In fact, it gave people the illusion that every time he struck out with his halberd, it was as if he had become one with the heavens and earth, as well as with the divine weapon. There was no distinction between them, and all of his power was concentrated on his halberd. Even if it seemed like a casual strike, its destructive power would be terrifying. At this moment, the 4 of them sat down on the grass and surrounded each other. The little fellow lay quietly in the middle of them. The scene was harmonious. This time around, the changes you've undergone after your breakthrough are so great. It's as though you've undergone a metamorphosis, Bai Lui said to Qin Wentian. Yes, there are some changes. My perception is much stronger than before. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Did you awaken your heart sense? Bai Lui asked. Heart sense. Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened as he stared at Bai Lui. Yes, heart sense. Bai Lui couldn't help but explain upon seeing the puzzled look on Qin Wentian's face. The birth of a myriad of thoughts, heart sense and consciousness are in direct opposition to each other. With the birth of heart sense, one would be able to see one's true self, and one's perception of one's surroundings would also become much stronger. One's control of energy would also undergo a metamorphosis, allowing one to move according to their will. Don't you feel that you can hear sounds from afar? Yes, I do feel that way. Qin Wentian nodded his head. He had also experienced it himself. Now that he was in combat, his control over his strength was much more fluid than before. Bai Luyi's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of a smile when she saw Qin Wentian nodding his head. No wonder, it seems like after you found out about Lung Ning, your heart was moved, and under a stroke of good fortune, you managed to awaken your heart sense. This is an extremely rare opportunity for stellar martial cultivators. Whatever energy you cultivate, it's as though it's easier than before, because your heart and mind are now as clear as day. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. It seemed like he had indeed awakened his heart sense. However, he could sense that the candle flame had played a crucial role in his breakthrough. The candle flame was formed from strands of golden blood, and it was able to cause the other violent bloodline in his body to submit to it. The power of the candle flame was truly terrifying. It was just that he still had no way to delve into the depths of it. Normally, when we comprehend something, we would always say, use your heart to feel it. But now you've awakened your heart sense. That's something only 1 in a million can do. Bai Lui stared at Qin Wentian, feeling some envy in her heart. If only I could awaken my heart sense as well. My archery skills would surely grow even stronger, Chu Meng stated. I think so too. Qin Wentian nodded his head. Big bro Chu Meng, you will definitely be able to do it. Your archery skills are already at a high level. If you can use your heart and mind to feel the direction of your arrows, you will definitely succeed one day. Also, Qin Wentian, don't waste your talent. You should know how powerful your will is. It's something that others can only dream of. If Big Bro Chu Meng had your talent, he would be able to easily kill an expert at the 6th level of Yuanfu. You have to spend more time with Big Bro Chu Meng and exchange pointers on archery. Qin Wentian stared at Fatty Fan Lu as he spoke. Fan Lu nodded his head. Ever since he witnessed Lung Ning's death, he had changed a lot. Even without the guidance of others, he would still put in more effort in his cultivation. Don't talk about others. The time for the exchange is getting closer and closer. Don't you think it's time for you to prepare? Bai Lui rolled her eyes at Qin Wentian. I will accompany you in researching divine inscriptions. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. Okay. Bai Lui smiled. She was filled with anticipation for Qin Wentian to study divine inscriptions together. This would be of great help to her. On the grassy hillside, the atmosphere was tranquil and peaceful. Chu Meng and Bai Lui continued to temper their archery skills, while Qin Wentian and Bai Lui studied divine inscriptions. As time flowed by, Bai Lui grew more and more astonished. She discovered that Qin Wentian's rate of improvement was simply too terrifying. Now that they were studying divine inscriptions together, it was as though Qin Wentian was guiding her in their cultivation. Do you want to study the art of puppetry? Seeing that Qin Wentian's attainments in divine inscriptions as well as the Tao of formations had already reached a certain level, Bai Lui asked Qin Wentian. No need, puppets are also divine weapons. To me there's no difference. There's no need for me to waste time on them. Qin Wentian shook his head. So confident? Bai Lui laughed, as she looked at Qin Wentian. Do you want to test it out against my puppet? Sure. Qin Wentian nodded his head, as he stood up and retreated to a spot not far away. A crafty smile appeared on Bai Lui's innocent face. With a flash of light, a puppet appeared, dashing towards Qin Wentian with extreme speed. Take a good look at the strength of your puppet. Bai Lui laughed, as the puppet punched out. Qin Wentian lifted his palms as numerous ancient imprints appeared, colliding with the puppet's fist. After which his palms abruptly blasted out, slamming into the puppet's body. His movements were as fast as lightning. However, the puppet's chest only flashed with a glowing inscription, but it didn't even budge an inch. Bai Lui laughed. It doesn't know what pain is. You better be careful. Who asked you to be so arrogant? Qin Wentian didn't mind her words, he laughed. After which he retracted his palms, transforming them into fingers as he abruptly pierced out. Shattering sounds rang out as the puppet's chest exploded, and it was flung through the air. This scene caused the smile on Bai Lui's face to stiffen, as an expression of unwillingness to accept defeat appeared on her face. Momentarily, the puppet flew forwards once more, punching out with its fist, as though a terrifying black dragon was roaring. Thousand Hands Imprint. Qin Wentian lifted his palms, as a boundless number of imprints appeared in the air, colliding with the black dragon shadow. Qin Wentian's palms pierced through the terrifying shock waves, slamming into the puppet's arm. Another cracking sound rang out as the puppet's arm slumped to the ground. Bai Lui's heart ached when she saw this scene. Stop the battle. After speaking, the puppet returned to Bai Lui's side, raising its right hand in an attack. However, only the whistling sound of the wind could be heard. There was no explosive power behind it. This caused Bai Lui to glare at Qin Wentian with hatred. Smelly fellow, what did you do to my puppet? Qin Wentian couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the bitter look on Bai Lui's face. Who would have thought that this cold beauty would have such a side to her? Her pure and innocent countenance was filled with hints of anger. It was extremely adorable. Comprehending a single law, comprehending a myriad of laws. The puppet is also a product of divine inscriptions, and its attacks originate from the divine inscriptions. As long as the divine inscriptions within it are third-ranked, it can be neutralized using reverse inscriptions. Qin Wentian smiled, his words causing a strange light to flicker in Bai Lu Yi's eyes. Qin Wentian made it sound so simple, but could it be that he had already comprehended the structure of the divine inscriptions just by interacting with the puppet? In that case, as long as it's a third-ranked puppet, it won't be able to pose a threat to you? Bai Lu Yi asked. Qin Wentian shook his head. A peak-tier third-ranked puppet can directly kill me. How can I possibly come into contact with it? Unless there's someone to help me block its attacks, allowing me to neutralize its divine inscriptions. That's true. Bai Lu Yi nodded, but when she thought of her own puppet being destroyed, she couldn't help but glare at Qin Wentian. What about my puppet? I'll repair it for you. Qin Wentian smiled as he walked forwards, causing a strange light to flash in Bai Lu Yi's eyes. He could repair puppets? Qin Wentian walked to the puppet's side, and after a short period of time he restored the puppet to its original state. Bai Lu Yi felt a heavy blow to her heart. Could it be that what he had said was true? Comprehending a single law, comprehending a myriad of laws. Bai Lu Yi had personally witnessed how Qin Wentian was able to construct second-ranked divine inscriptions with the flick of a finger. In her heart, she couldn't help but think that during this exchange, he would surely shock many in the eastern region. Yen Tai still didn't know what kind of demon-level character he had angered. Although Qin Wentian seemed to have let go of Lung Ning's death, Bai Lu Yi could sense that he was merely suppressing his anger temporarily, ready to erupt at any moment. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.